How's it going, everybody? And welcome back to another episode of your favorite Swimbait podcast, Scales and Tails, episode 184. We're joined by a guy in New York. Super excited about this. A fellow northerner over here. I'm in Michigan. He's in New York. So our fish probably aren't exactly the same, but he was actually describing his weather before we started recording, and it is actually very, very similar to where we are. If we look on a map, there's a good chance like he is directly parallel to where I am, just a little closer to the East Coast over there. But it's gonna be a super good episode. This guy has caught some very, very large fish that I will say, and I'm sure even, dude, I bet you have a PB bigger than some of the guys who are listening to this, like south of the Mason-Dixon line. Like they might be jealous listening to a New York guy have a bigger PB than them.
Yeah, and it's been crazy. It's been a crazy journey, and like I said, from where I started to where it is now,
Mhm.
um, it's just a night and day difference. Gear, weather pattern, all the way through COVID. It's been an incredible journey. And I don't know where you wanted to start, or
Yeah,
it's really up to you, and we'll go from there with how you want to run your podcast and run this
perfect.
episode. But ask away, and like I said, I took notes,
Beautiful.
so I'll try not to get too
Yeah.
far off on tangents
No.
like I normally do.
No, you're good, dude. People are listening to this to listen to Jeff Hosley talk. They don't care about me. They've listened to me for 184 episodes. They're here to listen to you, man. So, before we get too deep into it, we got the icebreaker questions, the old classic.
Yep.
You and I were getting ready to go fish in the morning. What we
Hmm.
got the boat hooked up, whatever it may be, got all our stuff geared up on the way
Hmm.
to the lake. We need to stop, get some gas for the truck, get some food, whatever else it may be. What are your gas station go-tos before you go start your trips?
That's an easy one, but it's also a hard one. So obviously $150 worth of diesel fuel for the truck
Yeah.
first, and then got to go Bang Energy. Got to
Mhm.
grab an energy drink all day.
Yep.
And then snacks. Got to go hot fudge sundae Pop Tarts and zebra cakes.
Ooh,
Um,
okay. We have not heard, I
all
don't think
day.
we've heard Pop Tarts or zebra cakes, so those are two new ones to add on the
Yep.
list that we've had.
Yeah, listen, I got to maintain my fisherman's physique over
Yeah.
here. You can't eat too healthy, especially when you're out on the boat all day for
Yeah.
12 to 16 hours or whatever it may be. But
Yeah.
occasionally a protein bar, but
Mm.
hot fudge sundae Pop Tarts and zebra cakes for the win, I think.
Heck yeah, man. And then a personal icebreaker, or not a personal, but an icebreaker for you, a little more personal. So I don't know about you, but our last couple winters here in Michigan have been kind of mild. It's not really like the winter we
Yep.
had this year or past winters. Have you noticed an influx in your fish size, and does it seem like those fish are kind of putting on weight throughout the winter months, whereas during harsh winters they're just kind of coasting through the winter months?
They're definitely getting bigger and
Yeah.
they're eating more.
Mhm.
Around here, the winters have been very mild, not a lot of snow.
Yep.
It, I would say fish on average are probably 1 to 2 pounds bigger
Mm.
coming out of the spring.
Hmm.
I was running into a lot of 5 to 6.5 pound fish, probably, 2016, 17, 18.
Mm.
We had some really wicked winters around here, really cold, a lot of snow in
Yep.
those years. And then the last couple of years, it's been really mild with not a lot of ice. So I think those fish are kind of starting to slowly learn, hey, if the winters are going to be mild, we're just going to keep eating and
Yeah.
nothing's going to slow us down. When you have those winters where there's really thick ice and then
Hmm.
you'll get 1, 2, 3 feet of snow and everything gets black and
Yeah.
out. um their metabolisms and their minds go crazy and they get real dormant and they don't
Hmm.
want to eat. And coming out of those winters is when I kind of just started getting into swim baits full time.
Hmm.
And this was out of college. So 2014 is when I need to make the transition, right? Like I was doing conventional stuff growing up. I would always go, down the Hudson River with my dad and
Yeah.
fish and go to camp and, fish for largemouth with my dad and my aunt, uncle,
Hmm.
grandfather, stuff like that. And we would catch, 4, 5, 6 pound largemouth too. And that's kind of where I fell in love with fishing. I wasn't huge into it. It's just a
Yeah.
hobby of mine, but
Yeah.
I played baseball and stuff growing up. So didn't really get into it just swim baits until 2014. I was more of a conventional angler. So I was in college, didn't have a cent in my bank account, and then I realized how expensive this
Yeah.
stuff was.
Hmm.
Now, in 2014, didn't have a penny in the bank account. Actually, I got some money for Christmas, and the first thing I did was spend it all on swim bait stuff. So I needed a rod, a reel, and some line. So I went on Tackle Warehouse, and Tackle Warehouse, I mean, this is when you could find a Hinkle
Yep.
trout on Tackle Warehouse
Yeah.
for 180 bucks.
Yeah.
So I know we're going back some time. Uh, the first rod I had was an Okuma Guide
Guide
Select,
select.
and
I
that was
could have
the
guessed that. Yep.
yeah, and it was the OG one with the cork handle.
Yep. Yeah.
The split grip, just a,
Hmm.
a real broomstick. I'm like, you know what? It's affordable.
Hmm.
What was affordable to me? So I was
Yeah.
like, well, you have the Akuma Guide Selector. You have a $600,
Like a G Loomis or something.
the G Loomis,
Yep.
the big bait, what the bounce back rods they were called. I
Yeah.
think they
Yeah.
retailed for like 500 bucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so I'm like, well, can't do that. So I bought the Guide Select. I believe I bought the extra heavy.
Mm.
And then it's just the Shimano Cardiff.
Cardiff. I
It
could
was
have guessed that too at the
yeah,
time.
yeah. And line, I think I went. Now, I mean, this was a time when Swimbait Underground
Hmm.
was kind of just kicking off.
Yeah. Yep.
So I believe, now don't quote me on this, but I believe Swimbait Underground was founded in 2010 or maybe early 2011.
Hmm.
Is when the forums really started to kick off. So I didn't know anything about swim baits, not
Yeah.
a thing. So I would go on and I would do some research on Swimbait Underground and watch every YouTube video that I could, scrap up, the old OG, Butch Brown catching
Yep.
19.3s out of, Castaic and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh my God, this is really the caliber
Hmm.
of fish that you can catch with these lures. So I didn't know anything about line, really. I used to fish monofilament and some braided for topwater. I think I ended up throwing like 35-pound P line CXX on, which is like fishing with like an Ethernet cable.
Yeah.
It was bad, and I would fish that. And my first swim bait was actually this. It was one of the OG
Mm.
Rate of Fall 5 HUDs with the bottom hook hanger.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Um, So I fished this heavily for the first year, and man, I was lost. I was trying to hold on 1 second. I actually gotta pull
Nope.
up my
You're
notes
good.
here.
Picture this: the sun rising over the mountains, your line gets tight, and the fight of a lifetime begins. Welcome to Lake Bacharach Lodge, Mexico's premier largemouth bass fishing lodge. Nestled in the heart of the Sierra Madre Mountains, Lake Bacharach Lodge offers world-class fishing, luxury accommodations, first-class hospitality, and expert guides who know where the grandes live. Whether you're chasing giants or kicking back after a day on the water with a frosty, cold, bottomless margarita, we've got you covered. Home to some of the biggest bass in the world, Lake Bacharach is truly an angler's paradise. Don't miss your shot at the bass of a lifetime. Book your trip now at www.lakebacharachlodge.com or call 806-316-8382 today. Lake Bacharach Lodge, truly the best in bass.
Yeah. That's
Um,
funny. That's like
so it was around the
that's the
summer.
OG setup right there. The Cardiff and the Guide Select.
Yep.
Wow.
And I was just chucking line, chucking line, chucking line. Didn't know how to fish it. Didn't know what I was
Hmm.
doing. Would bomb it out as fast as I could, as far as I could, and reel it in.
Yep.
Well, I would say like a medium retrieve.
Hmm.
Didn't know anything about bottom bouncing and how the big fish would relate to pinning a bait on the bottom. Um, so to start off, I think it was in the summer of 2015. Yeah, the summer of 2015. I was just going out and hitting the bank and trying to learn as much as I could,
Hmm.
and it was kind of getting frustrating because I didn't know what I was doing
Yeah.
and I had the wrong gear. 100%. You can read stuff on Swimbait Underground and read and read and read and try to obtain all the knowledge that you can, but until you go out and do it, it's a completely different
Yep.
story.
Yep.
So I was going out there slinging the HUD, slinging the HUD. I went 17 fishing trips without a bite.
Wow.
And I'm talking back when I was still in college, no job,
Mhm.
so I would go pretty much every off day or every off night that
Yeah.
I could. That wasn't in class, or weekends or holidays, whatever. So 17 trips in a row to start out with not even a bite,
Mhm.
and the frustration was starting to really set in,
Mhm.
and it was almost like a deterrence.
Yeah.
And A, because I didn't know what I was doing, and B, because of the gear that I was using. I mean, the Okuma, the Guide Select is not a very sensitive rod.
No, no.
So once I learned to put that bait on the bottom,
Yeah.
and looking back at it now, I'm like, oh my God, do you know how many like the little tick
Mm-hmm.
bites that I missed
Yep.
that I thought
Yep.
was like, oh, I just hit a tree stump, or I just,
Mm-hmm.
crawled over a boulder.
Mm-hmm.
I missed so much just because A, I didn't know what it felt like,
Yeah.
and B, if I had 20-pound fluoro compared to 35-pound copolymer and could feel it a little bit
Yeah.
better, I think I would have been off to an even better start.
Mm-hmm.
So, so I kept fishing, kept grinding it out, and I'm fishing. It's a prison reservoir. It's private, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're into June, and we're getting to the first week of June, second week of June. So it's definitely post spawn
Yeah.
here
Yep.
normally. Um, I go out, I bank beat, cast it out, and now I'm parallel to the shore, and I'm just cruising it, cruising it, cruising it. Probably middle of the water column, and I
Mm-hmm.
feel a thump, and like a hard thump. So
Yeah.
I knew, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, it's about time. Set the hook, and I just wrench and wrench and wrench on this thing, and I mean this extra heavy pull is just bent right over.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, I got you, I got you, I got you. Now so I Butch Brown rigged it
Yeah. I was gonna
because this
ask
one
that.
doesn't need. So I mean, you can see where it's all tore up.
Mm-hmm.
So I would run a crimp just
Yep.
like Butch did in his
Yeah.
videos, and he made some great videos at the time of how to do it appropriately. Um, so I feel a thump, I set the hook, I get it in, I weigh it, 8 pounds, 12
Oh
ounces.
my gosh.
So that was my personal best. So that was June of 2015. So
Mhm.
that was, I mean, so now in my head I'm going light bulb,
Yep.
okay? So I'm like shaking, weigh it again. Now it's actually funny because I have one of Mike Gilbert's like first red measuring boards in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
I remember getting it as a gift, and the person that got it for me as a gift emailed Mike because I wanted the red board, and it was one of the last red ones that he had.
Yeah.
So to this day, it's actually behind me.
Yeah. That's so
It's
sweet.
up there, and it's yeah. So just another cool story because
Mhm.
working class hero was just getting started
Yeah.
back then.
Like just
So
getting
I actually have
started.
yeah, it was crazy. Like it's already been 10 years, and look how far that company's come.
Yeah.
So this is actually that was the fish. I don't know if you could see it in
Oh, that
there.
is so cool, man. You
Yep.
probably you
Just
probably thought you were the New York Butch Brown. Like I just caught almost a 9 pounder. Like I'm gonna do this every
yeah,
trip now because I know what I'm doing.
yeah. And you know what? It's funny you say that because confidence in
Mm-hmm.
this game,
Yep.
it's night and day. And before that, 17 trips, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and that's 17 fishing trips, not 17 days in a row.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was probably late March until that fish was
Mm-hmm.
over the span of probably 45 to 50 days.
Yeah.
So mentally, I was going in, and I was like, oh, leave the house.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to fish for 68 hours. Here we go. No
Yeah.
bites, no fish, no followers, something like that. And then that happens. And it's just, light bulb. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
what did I do right? What are the conditions that
Yeah.
I'm fishing in? What's the weather? Okay, post front, cloudy. The other day it was sunny. Now you start to put together, a little bit more of the puzzle of what you
Yep.
did right and where you were. Um, and that really just set the foundation for the next 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Failure into success and just learning everything. Every time you go out, you got to be able to learn something.
Right.
Um, so let's see here. Yeah, we're past that. So later that year, now we're into like the fall of
Mm-hmm.
2015. I start to get more swim baits. I mean, I got a collection behind me, and
Yeah.
that's only like half of them. So, I mean, I'm not really a collector, but I like to
Mm-hmm.
fish everything that I have. But I
Yeah.
have a pretty big collection from throughout the years.
Mm-hmm.
I DM Mike Shaw to get
Mm-hmm.
some slammers,
Yeah.
and those baits are just phenomenal.
Yeah.
I have an X2 9-inch dark trout. I think
Mm-hmm.
one of the first ones I had was the baby bass
Yeah.
9-inch, and then the 9-inch bluegill.
Yep.
So I struggled that summer. between the 8.12 and the fall. Now, the fall is my favorite time to fish.
Mm.
And that's when, the fish really start to put on some weight around here.
Yeah.
And read more and more on Swimbait Underground. I talked to some of my buddies that were doing it, and they're like, dude, it's all about the moon phase.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh yeah, the moon. I'm like, haven't really paid attention to it when I was fishing conventionally
Mhm.
because I would just go out and try to catch
Yeah.
fish. I
Yeah.
wasn't really trophy hunting, and now getting into trophy hunting, you got to be really, really precise with what you're doing with your
Mhm.
timing and stuff like that. So there was a time of a full moon phase in the fall of 2015 where I caught 3 sevens in the span of a week.
Wow.
One was top water on the slammer. Another one was bottom dragging the HUD,
Hmm.
and the other one was on, I believe, a large black Rago alpha rat.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of people fish those. It seems like I don't see a lot of them around, but I
Yeah.
mean, it's phenomenal, phenomenal bait.
Mhm.
So I caught. Hold on, I just gotta change my notes here.
No, you're good.
Um, and if I'm rambling, just stop me and
No,
ask
no, you're good,
questions
dude.
if you
I'm
want.
listening, dude. This is like
So
this
yeah,
was like I was into swim baits, but I hadn't bought any or stuff. Like I would scroll through Underground, I would follow a lot of the guys on Instagram and stuff, but I was, 13, 14. It wasn't until I got to like late 15, 16 like years old is when I finally was able to kind of like do it for myself because nobody was going to buy me any of that stuff when I was a
right.
younger kid. So it was this was like around the time that I was watching the scene, but I wasn't partaking in anything yet. So I hadn't gotten to experience anything except for all this secondhand stuff on the forums or like you said, the YouTube videos. So it's cool to hear you being a little bit older, you kind of going through how all this stuff unfolded for you at the time when swim baits were still a pretty new thing. And I guarantee you weren't walking into a Bass Pro Shop in New York and finding swim baits there. Like it was a very, very
No.
new thing there too. So that's really cool to hear because that's like kind of how it's
Yep.
here in Michigan right now. You can't really find them anywhere
Mhm.
or anything.
Nope, and it was such a niche thing in the
Hmm.
fishing community, right? Like
Yeah.
you either did conventional or you were all in on swim baits, and
Hmm.
you talk to that crowd,
Yep.
right? And
Yep.
you would know like who the big trophy hunters are,
Yeah.
and I'm like, you know what? I just want to get into trophy hunting. Like enough of the small fish, enough of the numbers. Enough is enough. I want to
Yep.
catch fish of a lifetime and just go all in. And
Hmm.
like you said, you're not going to walk into a store and find any of that stuff. It's all, you know, eBay,
Yeah.
Facebook Marketplace wasn't even a thing. I
Right. Yeah.
remember going on to eBay and I think I put like a 600 or $650 bid in for a Hinkle blank that hadn't even been painted,
Mm,
and I lost by about $200.
that's insane. Yeah.
And you can't go into Bass Pro Shops or Dick's
Right.
Sporting Goods or Field and Stream and find any of the stuff that
Hmm.
was getting bit at the time.
Yeah.
And it was always like pre-order this, pre-order that, and that was fine.
Hmm.
Um, because I wanted, I would go on. I think it was Swimbait City. He had
Yeah. Yep. Swimbait City.
the
Yep. That's
guys.
still a site
Yep.
actually too.
Yeah. Swimbait City. I found a lot of good stuff on. Uh, the MS Slammer.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, website. 316. I mean, I fish a lot of 316 stuff. I mean, those baits are just Mickey is just a master of his
Yeah.
craft. I mean,
Hmm.
the guy is just unbelievable. I mean, the shop is, one
Yeah.
of one. Lake Fork is one of. It's just a completely different world down there, and
Hmm.
I have all of his stuff. I mean, I fish it all the time.
Hmm.
I mean, so going back, so I was trying to learn and trying to learn and trying to learn and trying to
Yeah.
learn and probably over try. Sometimes you can over try to learn and you just
Hmm.
need to go out and try and have your
Yeah.
own failures. And I was breaking off baits and getting skunked and the whole 9 yards when it
Hmm.
comes to beginners for
Yeah.
swim baits. Fast forward to the fall of 2016, I finally get my hands on a rate of fall 12 weedless 68 HUD.
Yep.
And rainbow trout. They're
Yeah.
always sold out. And I went online and I bought 8 of them. I bought all of them,
Yeah.
all that you could buy. I think it was like $400 to my
Hmm.
door.
Yeah.
And I still have some of them over there. They're still new in the package, but I,
That's
I was
crazy.
so pissed off. I was so pissed off that I couldn't find one because people out west and in
Mhm.
down south were just slamming them. So I'm like, okay, rate of fall 12. Finally got some better line. Now, better line to me wasn't 35-pound CXX.
Yeah.
I was still new. So I was fishing 25-pound trilene big game is,
Mm.
and that's what I use nowadays for my topwater stuff. It's
Yeah.
great line, it's cheap,
Mhm.
and it's got a lot of stretch for those treble hook kind of baits. It's what I fish, the Wake Junior on.
Yeah.
Um, Great bait. Um, so I'm fishing off the bottom. I'm back at that prison reservoir, and I feel the tick. I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, it's making sense now.
Yeah.
And to me, when I first started, they're like, oh, you gotta fish it slow. Well, to me, slow is like,
Yeah. Yeah.
not,
Right. Creeping.
you know,
Literally. Yeah. 3 minute
literally
cast.
like, and the way I would practice, and this just sounds silly, right? Like you're like, there's no way this guy is like for real right now. I would put the bait down on grass,
Mhm.
right? And I'd walk out
Mhm.
100 yards or 150 yards, pretty much everything that I had on the
Yeah.
Cardiff at the time. And I would time it on my iPhone,
Mm.
how far and how long
Mhm.
it took to get that bait at the end of the spool
Yeah.
back to me at what visually was slow.
Mhm.
And that's how I learned, because if I can't see the bait in the water
Yeah. You
and
don't
how it
know.
looks and how fast it is, you got to control what you can control when you're learning.
Mhm.
So I would time it. And when I first timed it, what I thought was slow, it was like 2 minutes and 15 seconds back to me, right?
Yeah.
And when I did it the right way, if I remember correctly, it was somewhere a little bit between 7 and 8 minutes.
That's what I was gonna say. It was like 6.5 minutes
Yep.
was my guess.
Yeah, and it was, dude, I'm telling you, it's like when you fish that slow, you're giving that fish so much time to
Mhm.
look at that thing.
Yeah.
So it just started to click. And so I feel a tick. I set the hook. Now I'm on 25-pound mono, which to me at the time was like, okay, I'm not fishing 35-pound. I'm fishing
Yeah.
25-pound now. So they shouldn't be able to see it. But now I'm fishing a bottom bouncing bait with a floating line.
Mhm.
So I set the hook, and I can tell it's big. And I know it's bigger than even the 812
Mm.
just because I got the same setup. So I knew. And I finally get her up, and I'm from the shore. I'm still fishing from the shore, and she shakes once, and she goes back down. And I see how big she is now. In my visual estimate, she was probably 9.5 to 10 pounds.
Wow. Yeah.
100% was bigger than the 812,
Mhm.
and this was in the fall, so she was feeding pretty heavily, getting
Yeah.
ready
Yeah.
for winter. So I got her probably right around, I would say comfortably, probably like 7 to 10 feet from the bank from me.
Mhm.
And she turns, and I see the bait fly back to the shore. And I'm like, what a gut punch. I just kind of like sat down on the ground. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like I did, in my mind, everything right to land that fish.
Yeah.
And she just said, nope, pop that jig hook. So I'm reeling it in, and I'm looking at the hook. Now, the hook is at a 45-degree angle to where it currently was.
Mhm.
So she bent that jig hook
Yeah.
straight out. What do you do?
With
I
mono
mean,
too, so it's like there was stretch
wait,
in the line, and it still
yeah,
did
there
that.
was. And now that Berkeley, that trilene big game, I mean, if you get a hold of it, you can really stretch it
Yeah.
like pretty
Yeah.
good. It's so, and I'm like, well, with fluoro, I'm thinking, okay, would that jig hook just snap? I
Right.
mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
because there was
Or like rip
no
out of the
give.
foam or something, like rip out of the harness. Like, what is that gonna do?
Yep. And what a gut punch that was, because
Mhm.
it's different when you get snapped off and you don't see the fish.
Yep.
But when you do see the fish and realize what you had or what you
Yeah.
could have had,
Oh.
it's such a humbling experience. It's such a humbling experience, man. And it's just that really motivated to get me some better gear. So
Mhm.
I would start to hustle, like, the swim bait underground thing, like get a bait in for $50 and sell it for 75 and
Yeah.
start
Yeah.
flipping baits, because I just wanted to make, I didn't even have my first big boy job until 2016.
Right.
So when those first paychecks started to get in, I'm like, you know what? Huh. I can afford it now.
Hmm.
So I started, I grabbed a few, what was the big rod at the time? I believe it was iRod.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
with the yep, iRod, and Matt Newman was just starting to come out with his, the medium swim bait, the large swim
Hmm.
bait, the jumbo, Bailey's big bait,
Yeah, I was
especially,
about to say,
Paul
yeah, the
Bailey, the
Bailey
trophy
swimming
hunter out.
stuff.
Yep. So I had one of those. I finally get my hands on one, and I switched to 20-pound fluoro, and same thing. I'm fishing from the bank, set on a big fish, real
Hmm.
big. Probably, I don't think as big as probably 9 to 10, but probably 7.5 to 8.5.
Yeah.
And I lay into her as hard as I can, and the rod snaps. So
Oh
yeah, and
man.
I'll send you the picture of it later, but it snapped like probably a foot and a half down from the
Oh.
top. It's like not even at the tippy top. So
Hmm.
I knew it was a good fish, but I mean, you have an equipment failure, what do you do? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know what? I want custom rod built.
Hmm.
So fast forward a little bit, I start to get some more money, and I call up Mark Neflis from Neff Customs.
Okay.
Are you familiar with him? Like
No,
I think he stopped.
I was expecting you to say Moum because at the time that's like Moum was big in that like 2016,
Yeah.
2017. So I was either expecting Moum or like LDC for what you were gonna say.
So LDC makes a good rod, and so does Moam, but I'm not all about that parabolic
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Some of those guys are, especially, out west in
Mhm.
California, when you're, anything from 17 to 20 pounds could be
Yeah.
floating around in those lakes, and you
Right.
never know. Um, so I contacted Mark. He built me 3 rods, 2 extra heavies and an extra heavy for the big stuff.
Hmm.
Um, Beautiful rods. Has, Swimbait Jeff on them. He did
Yeah.
different color camos and stuff like that. They're all 8 foot. What else do I have? Um, so yeah, fast forward until, a couple years ago, I picked up some of Mickey's rods that he has down at
Oh
the shop, the
yeah. Yeah.
316 ones. Spiral. Oh my God, beautiful rods.
Beautiful. Yeah.
What spiral wrapped,
Hmm.
light, Torzite guides on them. Been super happy with them over the last couple of years. But and I hate to sound like that, but like once you put the money in and once you get the good stuff,
Yep.
you're never gonna go back.
Yeah.
You're never
Yeah.
gonna go back to the entry level, and it's just like I'm not saying you need the high stuff, like the high priced gear,
Yeah.
but it makes a world of difference with sensitivity,
Mhm.
backbone, and just your overall confidence. And I started with the Cardiff, and now I'm running the Tranks
Yeah.
um, from Shimano, and I'm running the OG Corrado 300Es, the green
The
bad
green
boys.
one. Yep.
Yep, and I send them out. Trey Harple? I think he goes by TH Customs on Instagram. He does the real rod and reel
I
repair.
think so. It sounds familiar. Yeah.
Yep. So I sent all of those reels out to him, and he super tuned them, upgraded with like the Boca bearings and all
Yeah.
that
Yep.
stuff. Um, so you know, and like I hate to be like that, but like I'm never gonna go back to the entry level stuff
Yeah.
because
100%.
the up I mean, this stuff has handled whatever I've thrown at it
Hmm.
so well.
Yeah.
And once you experience, you know, positivity and, go with the flow and everything's clicking and everything's
Hmm.
working, it's like, well, if it's don't, if it's not broke, don't go
Yep.
try and fix it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but obviously this stuff is very expensive. Like anything swim bait, especially since COVID hit, everything is just so expensive.
Hmm.
You can't blame for people for starting out where I started out.
Yeah.
You know, a guy'd select a Cardiff and not a clue. And that's where I started. And I couldn't tell you how many HUDs I've lost at the bottom and depths 250s. And, you know, starting out, when I would get the bait in my hand and I'm trying to learn how to use it, what a gut punch that is to not
Right.
come home with it because
Yeah.
you didn't know whether you could go to Huddleston, .com and
Hmm.
find one.
Yeah.
You would look at it or go to Tackle Warehouse and it'd be January and you're like, well, I'm not going to start fishing until late March, and it says on back order till June 5th.
Yeah. Like, what the heck am I gonna do now?
Right. And it's like, oh, sign up for an email. It's like, no, emails don't work because by the time you get the email,
Yep. It's gone.
it's already sold out again.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just it's crazy how far it's come because now
Hmm.
with Swimbait Underground and the black market, I mean, you
Yeah.
can hop online and,
Buy any bait you
in
want.
20, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. And it's like new, used, doesn't matter. To your
Yeah.
door, it's there in 3 days.
Yep.
You're not waiting 3 to 6 months to get your hands on something.
Hmm.
And the convenience factor is through the roof because if I go off and, I'm fishing one of Mickey's, $500 beast glides,
Hmm.
if I snap one of those off, today's Thursday, I'll have one on my doorstep Monday afternoon.
Yeah. Right. Right.
So it's, it allows you to fish a little bit more aggressively,
Hmm.
even though, you don't, I have a lure retriever and stuff and
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm getting all my stuff. I'll snap a $2 hook just to get a $500
Right.
bait back.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
I'll go on a little bit of a plunge if I have to
Hmm.
within reason,
Yeah. Yeah.
but, what else do I have here? I'm sorry if I'm just
No,
going,
dude, you're good.
I'm
Like I said, I'm
going.
just listening. It's a cool story because, like I said, it's like to the point where I would, if I was a little bit older, I would have been getting in it around the same time. So I'm just getting to
Mhm.
experience what it was like because when I got into it, there was a couple more rod options on Tackle Warehouse. There were starting to be a few more real options here there offered or talked about on the scene. So it's interesting to hear like the couple years before just to hear
Right.
how different it was. And I know how different it was because I had seen it and I've heard so many guys talk about it now. And I always say guys now do not realize how lucky they are to have, you know, I bet you go on Tackle Warehouse, there's probably uh, 4 to 8 rods within like $150 to $200 that are pretty decent rods for a beginner swim bait rod that they could pick up. Whereas before you had what were they like $120 the guide selects at the time, and that was the
Yeah.
one rod or like you said the G Loomis bottom bounce or whatever it was. Like there was nothing to pick from, and the guide select at the time was considered a really like pretty nice rod. Like that's what a lot of
Yeah.
guys were fishing.
Yep, and it's funny you say that too because it's crazy to think about just, look at all the guys that are throwing swim baits and look at their age and what they grew up with, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I'm talking 2014 on, and from your experience, it's what, COVID on, maybe?
No,
Is
no,
that the
no,
right time period?
no. So I actually got into it like 2016. I got my first rod.
Gotcha.
So it
Gotcha.
wasn't, it was
But I
only
mean,
like, it was only like 2 years, 2.5, 3 years after
yeah.
you had kind of gotten into it. So, yeah, like those guys, I think about that too. Like those guys who got in it during COVID, like, dude, there was
Hmm.
so many options for baits,
So
rods,
much.
line with the
Hmm.
options, and there was reviews about all of them on Swimbait Underground, on Swimbait Universe, on YouTube. Like there, you could not buy something without having at least a decent idea what you were gonna get at the time. Like it's crazy to think about now.
Yeah. It's insane because back when, I mean, Instagram was just, it wasn't even big at the time,
Yeah.
right? So you couldn't, I mean, social media has exploded
Hmm.
swim bait fishing
Yeah.
for better and for worse.
Yep.
Um, the community is there. You can hop on and DM whoever you want. Like if you see someone fishing a bait that you've never touched before
Hmm.
and have no idea what kind of rod action or line to use or anything, you'll have an answer back, within reason as long as the people are friendly enough to get back to their,
Yeah.
followers. You'll know what rod, reel, line type, and what condition that bait is tuned for.
Hmm.
I didn't have that
Yeah.
luxury,
Yeah.
and a lot of these older guys that, you would go out and I was fishing a Huddleston from 45-degree water temp
Yep.
to 80-degree water temp. And I didn't know that, that's a bottom bouncing cold water
Hmm.
specialty bait.
Yeah.
And you probably shouldn't be fishing it past June in, upstate New York.
Right.
Um, and like you said, with entry level or expert, right? There was no in between. The
Yeah.
market was so there wasn't even a section on Tackle Warehouse for swim bait stuff, and now it's
Yeah.
like, oh, are you fishing swim bait? You click on it, rod,
Soft or
reel,
hard?
line,
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
and now it's like if you had no knowledge of anything swim baits and just went to Tackle Warehouse, like it literally walks you through
Yep.
in steps
Yeah.
to your cart. Pick a rod, pick a reel, pick
Yep.
your beginning baits, and there's 60 to 80 hard baits and 80
Hmm.
to 100. I mean, there is
There are so many baits now. It's insane.
I mean, I'm telling you, man, when I first started out, it was the Huddleston and the Osprey.
Yeah.
There was no mag draft. There
Yep.
was no, the Rising Sun was just getting big and
Yeah.
introduced into the market. Um, it was it was Osprey and Huddleston,
Hmm.
and there was no Sixth Sense. There was
Yeah.
no all these mom and pop garage shops that
Mhm.
are popping up left and right that you just see. And I wish I had all the time in the world and all the money in the world to support every
Yeah.
single bait maker out there and just to
Yep.
give everything a shot. But I've been so dialed in lately.
Hmm.
Um, I know what works and what, let's just put it this way. I'm not wasting my time anymore
Yeah.
because I know what they're looking at, what kind of baits these bass are interested in,
Hmm.
and I'm eliminating just conventional fishing. I'm just doing swim baits and trophy hunting.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference between being a bass angler and being a trophy hunter. Um, and what I think is 95% of the population, they go out and they're like, well, I'm going bass fishing, and
Yeah.
if I catch a fish, that's great.
Hmm.
My mentality is I'm going for the biggest fish in the pond, lake, reservoir, wherever I am.
Yep.
And if I get skunked, it is what it is. But when I get to the lake and I drop my trolling motor, it's game on. It's
Yeah.
business.
There's one thing to get done.
There's one thing to get done. There's one thing on my mind, and just don't get in my way because I'm not about distractions. I'm
Yep.
not about drama, and you see it on social media.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there that are jealous, and
Hmm.
it doesn't have to be that way. Let's fish. Let's put big fish in the boat and uh and go home at the end of the day and not have any boating accidents or
Yeah.
anything like
Yeah.
that, and learn. And throughout the years, Mike Gilbert, he came out with that like the trophy hunting. I forget what it was called, but he came out with like that. It was like that workbook, that calendar
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
that you could mark. And I forget the name of it, but I bought that for a couple of years, and I started to get very meticulous of water temp,
Hmm.
air temp, moon cycle,
Yeah.
clouds, sunlight. I like meticulous. Like I would note it all down. Every time I went out, I would take the extra minute and
Mhm.
just write it down in my phone so I could put it in the book,
Yeah.
or vice versa. Because when you're trophy hunting, your time, especially here in upstate New York, you're looking at the last week of March until about the second week of June to catch a big one.
Hmm.
Um, and then once they spawn out, you're just not going to find anything
Yeah.
that's sizable that will attempt to break a state record. I'm trying to break a state record.
Hmm.
That's my ultimate goal.
Right.
Um, so this time of year, from like April to like June, I'm like just dead set on it,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
just I'm getting there. I'm searching for the big girls, and that's it.
Hmm.
Um, but it's crazy to me to think about like what would I tell myself 10 years ago if I could go
Yeah.
back in
Yeah.
time, right? Oh my God. I mean, like put the guide select down,
Hmm.
save your money and just wait and just
Hmm.
get the good stuff and just go for broke,
Yeah.
right? Now, working through the years, obviously I learned a lot on the water. But the one thing that I ignored for the longest time was the moon.
Hmm.
And the moon is the biggest thing, along with, I think, the wind.
Hmm.
Now, cloud cover is great, okay? But the moon and the wind, and when those two are online, right? You have a good moon cycle, so you're thinking full moon cycle or
Yep.
like, the first quarter. Now, I would go out and I would see that I wouldn't catch fish on a full moon cycle if there was no wind.
Mhm.
A lot of these guys around here, like there's guys in Massachusetts that kill it. Like Massachusetts is like a big fish factory. Like they're
Yeah.
pumping out.
Yeah.
It seems like 6 to 8, 8.5 pound
Hmm.
fish. Like it's like small there.
Yeah.
Now I've talked. I don't fish Massachusetts, but some of the guys are telling me that sometimes depending on the wind direction they can get like warm weather or warm weather cycles that come
Hmm.
in off the ocean. I don't
Yeah.
know if that's 100% true,
I
but
I
it'll kind
definitely
of like,
believe that. Yeah.
yeah. um I'm so far up. I'm like 30 minutes south of Albany, so, or
Okay.
like 2 hours north of the city, so we're
Yep.
not getting any of that. um but the moon cycle is just it's just huge. And I ignored it, and I would read all these like bass wisdom books and stuff
Mhm.
that talked about it, and like the trophy bass books, and like
Yeah.
there's just so much information. You could read them 100 times and still not soak up
Hmm.
um all the information that are in those books. And I wish I paid attention to it quicker because
Yeah.
I caught on. I'm like, plan my trips around those moon cycles
Hmm.
and target the windier days,
Yeah.
because I would go out and fish the day before, the day of, and the day after the full moon cycles.
Hmm.
But if those days were, bluebird skies, sunny, and only like a calm breeze, the
Right.
fish were, you would get a lot of followers.
Hmm.
Now, turning those followers into bites was one thing. They would get so spooked. I
Yeah. Yep.
mean, the
They're watching you.
shadows,
Yeah.
and I'm all about stealth, man. So I bought a couple years ago. I bought a 1985. It's just a Voyager 14-foot John boat.
Hmm.
And last winter with my dad, I completely redid it,
Mm.
sanded it all down, painted it black,
Yeah.
aluminum kit, front casting deck, trolling motor, C deck, the whole
Hmm.
9 yards. And now I'm running a 1985 Mercury two-stroke on the back of it. Because why not? I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
still kicking. It's just an awesome engine. They don't make two-strokes anymore. So,
Hmm.
and I'm all about stealth. So a lot of people have like the big, the power poles with the
Yeah.
electronic anchors and stuff. I just drop anchor
Right.
and tie my anchor around the little knobs where you tighten the engine
Yeah. The
on just to
cleats
be
and stuff.
stealthy.
Yeah. Oh, the
The
engine. Yeah. Like the
cleats,
actual mountain stuff. Yeah.
yeah. So I would just do a figure eight around that,
Hmm.
so you don't have the loud, clunky
Yep.
anchor winch, with the electronics. Um, Electronics are a huge tool. I mean, think about 2014 on now with just electronics and trophy
Yeah.
hunting. Dude, I mean, I don't even think mega down imaging or mega side
No,
imaging was even a thing.
I was about to say side imaging I don't think was a thing until a little bit later. Like it side imaging may have been, but I don't think mega was. And then just in
Hmm.
that time, you get the mega side imaging so you can see what like 12 feet on each side of your boat.
Yep.
And then 360 comes out in like probably 2017. That was a huge deal. That was the biggest thing there for a while. And then
Yeah.
20 probably I think I was still in high school like when Josh Jones was like first starting to pop up or maybe right
Hmm.
before COVID. Forward facing sonar was new. It was kind of crappy at the time. It wasn't great. And then it just like there hasn't been any advancement since then. But you look at that 10-year stretch, 10 years, 2015 at the time, mega side imaging on like the HDS or like the Hummingbird 5 or whatever,
Yep.
like maybe the
Yeah.
7, like there was nothing. And now I think they're like it's crazy how far that stuff has come in just a short amount of 10 years. It's kind of crazy to think about.
It's kind of crazy to think about how far it's come and how little I actually use it, because I'm kind of like a been there, done that kind of guy now, where my my intuition with bass fishing, like I can show up and I'll be like, okay, well, this is where they're going to be. I can look at the structure, and
Mhm.
I run a Helix 7 with mega down imaging, and I'll just cruise around and just map like the
Yeah.
first time I ever go to like a new area of water, because I can see, I just want to know where the structure is. Structure to me is everything. I just need to know where drop offs and structure is. All these guys that are pouring $10,000 to $15,000 into, the 22-inch NBT battle, whatever screens they are, and Live Scope Plus with their $4,000 trolling motors.
Hmm.
Listen, I'll outfish any of them, because I'm at the end of the day, I'm going to be stealthier. It, it
Yeah.
it's one thing to find these fish, but it's a next thing to catch the big ones.
Hmm.
And I've seen it firsthand. I went out with my buddy, and we went right to a spot with his live scope setup where I know these two behemoth bass were. And we saw him on mega down imaging. We came back, and he plopped his live scope in, and once they heard that frequency,
Yep.
because it's like a tick 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 tick
Yeah, it's
tick, it's a
loud.
very high,
Yep.
yeah, it's loud. You would be amazed how fast those things swam in the opposite direction. Yeah.
I believe
So
it.
I was like, you know what? And I think live scope is a great tool. I think it's a great tool for trophy hunters, and I think it's a great tool for guides to try to put people on fish.
Mhm.
But I'm telling you right now, the spots that I fish, these fish are getting so big, and I have a chance to, if I'm going to have a chance to break a state record, it's not going to be with live scope in the water.
Right.
I think they're just too in tune with what
What's
they're
going
doing,
on.
and
Yeah.
they're so easily spooked, and you
Mhm.
got to be able to trick them. Now I don't know what your experience is, but when I first get to somewhere new or wherever I'm fishing for the day, I like to map it out and just see where the structure is, where the
Mhm.
drop offs are,
Yep.
and I'm good.
Yeah.
I can pull everything right out of the water and be as stealthy as possible. You know, I'll pull the trolling motor with the trolling motor transducer out, so I don't even need, mega down imaging. I'll
Yeah.
know the water temp. I know where I need to be,
Hmm.
and those fish are going to be there.
Hmm.
Um, Now I don't care if people run live scope or not,
Yeah.
but I think it's a tool and not an end all be all.
Yeah.
Um, and I think you see it on TV, and these guys that are running, I'll leave my opinion out of it when it comes to professional fishing.
Right.
Um, but I think me and you are probably on the same
Yeah.
wavelength as it comes to terms of like the watchability
Hmm.
and the future of professional bass fishing,
Yeah.
and I think it might be a little bit in trouble.
Yeah.
Um, because growing up, I would watch the Bassmaster Classic any chance that I could for
Hmm.
hours on end. And let me tell you, man, I tuned into it this year, and it was a little hard to watch. It
Yeah.
was because it's just I'm not watching you
Hmm.
watch something on your screen.
Yeah.
Like if you're
Yeah.
a professional, if you're a professional, go out and show me how it's done with all that
Mm.
without all this stuff. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. I think it's
if
like
you got yeah.
it's a tool, but when you become like solely dependent on it, that's when
Hmm.
like if you're like, oh, I bet you they're sitting under docks, or I bet you I could go catch some in 3 foot of water on some pads. I should go fish a frog. But you're like, oh, or I could just go out and scoot around all day trying to find, one big fish sitting out here. That's kind of where I get a problem with it, is like when it overtakes you and kind of overtakes your gut feeling, and it's like, oh, I could just zoom around out here. I mean, dude, like there's nothing more fun than watching a fish try to come up and eat your frog or eat your slammer by a dock, or whatever it
Yep.
may be. And like, yeah, I've only fished with like the forward facing stuff once, and it was cool. But it also pissed me off because I was watching these smallmouth on Lake St. Clair come up and look at the jerk bait or my glide bait and not eat it. And I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, like I know they're down there. That's cool. I could always switch my bait, but also I could just be casting, and once I catch one, I can kind of start putting something together myself and kind of feel a little more like in tune with everything, that I kind of figured it out. I've kind of cracked the code a little bit. And to each their
Hmm.
own, like I said, but it's like from a viewing standpoint, I can definitely understand why guys are sour about it, and why people think that there needs to be some changes if they want to keep viewership at an all-time high like it's been the last couple of years, because I don't think
Yeah.
what they're doing now is the code for that.
No, and I think they're gonna start to lose viewers,
Hmm.
and once you start to lose the viewers, you start to lose the money,
Yep.
and then it will click because
Yeah.
once you start losing money, they're
That's
gonna
when,
go,
yeah, we got to do something.
yeah. So like, I'm so in tune with what's going on, going back to electronics,
Hmm.
like throughout the years, learning of how these fish position
Yeah.
themselves throughout the year. I mean, like you said, and like I've been saying, it's just a tool for me.
Hmm.
I'll drop that mega down imaging. I'll scan around, see what the water temp is,
Yeah.
in different areas of the lake, reservoir, wherever. Now, when I go fishing, I keep things stealthy and I keep things simple. So
Yep.
when I go out, I got three setups, right? I got my top water setup, I got my middle or the suspending setup, and then I got my bottom of the water column.
Hmm.
So right now it's just, you know, like some people hide with what they fish with. Like
Yeah.
I'm not one of those guys. So right now I'm running like a Neff Customs extra heavy with the Tranks,
Yeah.
25-pound big game. And I'm throwing a perch wake junior, which I've been absolutely killing it on up here. I mean, it's phenomenal bait and it's extremely durable.
Yeah.
And what's nice about that bait is that I can even crank it down to about 2 feet and
Hmm.
use it as an oversized crankbait if I
Hmm.
need to.
Yep.
And then I have Mickey's the 316, the heavy
Yeah.
swim bait rod. That's what I use for the workhorse or the gizzard glide.
Mhm.
Now I've been fooling around with his the 316 gill glide.
Oh yeah,
What
yeah.
a killer bait that is, the slow sink, because I'll fish that anywhere from 3.5 feet to about 8 to 10 feet
Yeah,
down,
just
somewhere in
pound it
that.
down. Yeah.
Um, and then my other is just a medium 316 um, with the rising. I use it for rising suns. That's all
Hmm.
I'm using right now. The 5 inch on a weighted beast hook, or the 6.75 inch line through,
Hmm.
just for the shallower water to
Yeah.
keep it up in the water column.
Hmm.
Now I've had more success in the last 2 years just using those three setups,
Yeah.
because it's just what they eat around here, and I'm
Hmm.
not trying to force feed fish something that they don't want to see or they don't want to eat.
Yeah.
You get all this, and this is where social media ruins it, right?
Yeah.
You see
I
these
know where this
guys
is
and like,
going. Yep.
right, like the whole, I never hopped on the DRT
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
I've never owned one of their baits. I might not ever own one of the baits, and people out west are killing it on like
Yeah.
the frenzy and the canine and stuff like that. Um, we don't have that around here. The
Mm-hmm.
fish don't act like that around here. Now,
Yeah.
I can't speak for like the Southern California guys,
Hmm.
but the main places that I fish, right? These bass are eating bluegill, crappie, or perch.
Hmm.
Or obviously bass are cannibalistic too, so
Yeah.
they're eating the bass fry. Now, I just came off one of the best years that I think, and obviously I got to put my ego to a side here, that for anybody up in the Northeast, I would put money on that there's only probably a handful of guys that could come close to touching it.
Hmm.
And I have some numbers here that are just kind of like, so in 2024, I did 640 hours on the water.
Okay.
So in those, let's see here.
Wow. That's a lot thinking about it.
Yeah, and you know what? I would go through and I would go, okay, when's my start time and when's my end time? And I would just do a log, right?
Yep.
So this is, you're thinking, it's probably the last week of March through the third week of November.
Okay.
So 7 months.
Yeah.
Um, let's see here. I'm trying to get out of, I have a whole bunch of, bear with me for a second.
No, no, you're good, man.
Uh-oh.
Dude, 650 hours. That's crazy. It's a lot thinking about it.
Hold on. Let me, I gotta open up my notes on my phone real quick
Oh, you're good, dude.
because I have it here. I have it here.
650. 650 divided by 24. That's
Let's
27
see.
days of straight fishing, if anybody was wondering. That's a couple.
Yeah, it's where did I put it? So my five fish stringer, right?
Hmm.
For 2024, my top five fish went for 43.2 pounds,
Yeah, that's
which,
very large for the northeast. That is very solid. What is that? Average of 7.5,
so
something like that.
I believe I have it on my, let me just log in right to,
43.
let's see. Yep, so I had a 1096, which was my PB, a 913, an 823, a 770, and a 729. And the shortest fish was 22 inches.
Wow, that part right there, the shortest part, that is crazy because a 22-inch
And
fish here is
yeah,
long. I've only caught a couple over at or right around 22 inches. That is a very old fish in the north.
yeah, and what's crazy is you start to get into these length and weight,
Yeah.
comparisons, right?
Hmm.
Um, and I got some pictures here and I wanted to show. So this is This was the 9.3 that I caught. Now I would, so at the time, 8 pounds, 12 ounces was my personal best.
Yep.
So this summer I caught a 9.3,
Mm.
and this fish is 23 inches long.
Holy
Okay.
crap.
Yep. And I can't help, okay, I'm not like one of those guys, but I think the one cool thing about this fish that I'll never forget, and I'm glad I took a good photo of it, it's got a black dot
Mm. That's funny.
on the right near the fin.
Yeah.
And I got a picture of it. And I mean, this thing is just a beast. And now, mind you, I caught this fish, I believe it was August 19th. I mean,
Wow.
dead dog days of summer.
Yeah.
And I'll just never forget it because it's just, you don't run into these kind of fish up here in the dead heat of the summer
Mhm.
when the water temp is that hot
Yeah.
and there's still this stack. So this fish is, I mean, this fish is just,
Wow, dude, 23 inches an absolute humpback. Look how fast that back drops off to the tail, and look how
yep,
girthy that tail is. Oh my gosh.
dude. So I was fishing, it was the 5 inch rising sun,
Mhm.
the weedless on the beast hook, weighted.
Yep.
And I was about in 15 feet of water. Now there was a feeder creek coming in. We had just gotten a strong rainstorm, so this feeder creek was really pumping in the fresh water. Now,
Yeah.
earlier in the day, I kind of saw the bluegill really getting up into the cover because there are some reeds and stuff like that. But this place that I was fishing, I mean, it's almost like a mini Lake Fork. There's so many laydowns and vertical
That's
tree
sweet.
stumps. That's pretty
Yeah.
much it's insane. So I'm like, you know what? It's getting later in the summer. I mean, we're not in the fall, but I'm
Mhm.
like, they're going to be out roaming around like they
Yeah.
normally do, looking for easy meals. So I toss it out towards the creek. I position the boat probably 100 feet from the mouth of the creek, and now
Mhm.
I'm in 12 feet of water. So I bomb it out. I let it sink. I probably get 3 or 4 reel turns in, and thump. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now, usually with the rising sun near the bottom, the way they hit it sometimes is not completely like, sometimes they like just like knock into it and like you're like, oh, I'm bit, and you'll set the hook and there's nothing there. It's
Mhm.
like they're playing around with it almost.
Yeah.
But I mean, I swung on this thing and I go, oh shit, I'm stuck on a tree stump. And then the tree stump started moving.
Started fighting. Yeah.
And I go, yep. So I just reeled down as fast as I could to get any kind of slack. And
Mhm.
I mean, now I'm running the good shit. So I'm running the 20-pound
Yeah.
Sunline, the FC Sniper.
FC sniper. Yep.
I mean, holy shit, dude, it's expensive.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it's 159.99 for 1,000 yards.
Hmm.
So I'm thinking like every time I spool up, it's probably $10,
Yeah.
just to put it
Cha-ching.
just to
It's
put
like
it that way.
filling your truck up.
So right. So I set the hook and it's a medium rod, 300E. So
Mhm.
I set it's got 25 pounds worth of drag. She starts taking drag out.
Wow.
Um, so I'm just trying to get her up. I'm just trying to get her up because I know where all the laydowns are. I know there's a laydown to the left, a laydown behind, like further. So if she takes off and runs with it,
Hmm.
I'm gonna be screwed.
Yeah.
So I get her up and I see the size of her and usually, I can tell like I've caught enough 6.5 to 7 pound fish where
Mhm.
like I don't need a net.
Right.
I'm certainly like not gonna boat flip it, but I'll just grab it.
Yeah.
I saw this thing and I just looked for the net
Hmm.
instantly because I knew. Um I'm like, this is gonna be a fish of a lifetime. I said
Yeah.
I have to land this fish.
Hmm.
So she comes up, she shakes, she dives back down. I get her back up again. She comes up and she shakes again. Now I got her like right here
Hmm.
and like that fatty
Fat. Yeah.
white
Yeah.
portion of her jaw where it's like, well, I'm like, she's either gonna throw this or I'm gonna get her. So I just kind of like reach back and I stick the net out like this and she swims in and I'm like, whew, and I was like shaking at the time.
Yeah.
So I get her up and I put her on the board and it's 23 and I'm like, holy crap, this
Hmm.
might be like 10 pounds.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I have a good scale. I have a Brecknell. I think a lot of people are using either the Brecknells or the
Yeah.
new Bubba
The
scales that are
bubbles. Yep.
out where you can like, those are actually pretty cool, man. I wish I
Hmm.
had one of those.
Yeah.
I might have to invest in one someday because you can, I believe it or not, you can save the
Yeah.
data in it,
Yeah, I
right?
think, and I think
Um,
like you can save and cull like kind of like those Rapala ones, but I think it's got like a memory,
yep.
so like you can do your best five on there, I think.
Yeah, I think I might have to invest in that. But I mean, at the time, when I bought the
Yeah.
Brecknell was like the standard for like
Hmm.
trophy hunters and
Yep.
like all those good like guides that were using them
Yeah.
to get really accurate weights. And it was put her on the scale and it was 9.3, and I was just like, bro, I was just like, okay. So I have the 8 pounder, I have the 9 pounder. So I get her back. I release her. I release everything because I'm like, you know what? They can't get any bigger if you kill
Yeah.
them or
Yeah.
if you eat them. So, and I'm a trophy hunter through and through, and I'm all about conservation and stuff like that. And let them go and let them grow is my theory. And later on that year, 2024, I believe, if my numbers are correct, and I'll go back and I'll reference my notes again because when I was getting ready for this podcast, I'm like, I better have my stuff together so I have, good facts here.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so in 2023, I had 16 fish over 7 pounds.
Holy
Now,
crap.
and in 2024, I had, let's see here. Mm, Yeah, in 2024, I had 19 over 6 pounds and 21 over 7.5.
Dude, that is crazy.
And it got to a point where, and I love fishing, man. And
Hmm.
I was actually like starting to think in my head, I'm just like, I'm catching the biggest fish in my area
Yeah.
in the Northeast. And like people are like hitting me up on social media left and right. Um, and this is where it gets into like the whole buzzards and the
Hmm.
spot burners
Yeah.
because I have so much footage and so many pictures that
Mm.
I haven't even posted to social
Yeah.
media yet. That I'm and we in one of your podcasts, I think it was it Vance the fishing freak guy? He had mentioned, now don't quote me on this, but
Yeah.
I believe you guys were talking about like how long we have to hold on to your media
Oh,
because if you post it,
yeah, probably. It was probably somebody like him. Yeah.
yeah, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, I was going to talk about this too because I was listening to
Yep.
it last week. I'm
Yeah.
like, this is so accurate. There is
Hmm.
so much stuff that I have in my camera roll
Yeah.
that I can't post. I
Hmm.
can't post it because I've learned my lessons in the past with would post to like fishing apps and stuff
Yeah.
like that,
Yeah.
and it's like search by location, and you could
Yep.
hit a body of water and see like,
All the
dude, there
fish
was this
that have been
one.
reported there and stuff.
Dude, I'm telling you, I caught a 7.5 pounder that happened to be a lake record at this local lake.
Uh-huh.
I posted it, okay?
Oh no.
Dude, I'm telling you, on one of my off days, I drove past, and there's usually like two or three boats
Yeah.
on a busy day. I mean,
Uh-huh.
it's not a big lake by any means. It's popular, but it's not big, if that makes any
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
You couldn't get your boat and trailer in there if somebody would have bet you if you could have gotten it in, if
Yeah.
that makes any sense. There was no room to launch or
That's
nothing. There was that many people there. And I'm like, you know what? I think the word got out, and I'm not too happy about it. But then again, it was probably my own doing.
right.
Um, so it ties back to what I was gonna say of when does it become an issue to me where it's
Yeah.
like these 6.5 to 7.5 pound fish are like nuisance,
Hmm.
and it's to someone else it's a fish of a lifetime,
Yeah.
and that's to me it's like, where do I go from here?
Hmm.
Now it was funny because I got on a really good fall bite, and I took some time off of work because I'm like, you know what, the guy who just broke the old state record was 11.4, and
Hmm.
in July a guy had broke it pre-fishing a tournament, um out, and I believe it's Cayuga Lake, one of the Finger
Yeah.
Lakes.
Yeah. I remember seeing that
So
this last year.
yep, so it was 11.4, he broke it with a 12.5. I mean, it's just a freak
Great.
of a bass. I think it was like 20, 25.5 inches.
Wow.
Um yeah, and he was from Pennsylvania. He was just up in Cayuga pre-fishing a tournament and caught it. I think the story, don't quote me on it, but I think it was a scoped up fish on a purple Senko.
Yeah, I remember hearing something about a Senko. Yeah,
Yeah,
that would check out, I think. That's funny enough.
yeah. To each their own.
Yeah.
Um, it is what it is. But I mean, I think that's just more motivation for me.
Yeah.
And so now I'm entering the fall of 2024. I'd taken some time off of work, and the weather was setting up perfect. I'd taken time off of work, and looking at the weather, it was a gradual, like, I don't like those steep drop
Yeah,
off
but
in
if it's
temperatures
like
where,
it's like 50, 45, 40, 40,
right,
39, 40 throughout like a week, like that's pretty
right.
solid.
So in September, no, let me look. Anyways, sometime in the fall,
Hmm.
there was actually wildfires
Mm.
south of us.
Hmm.
And the only reason I bring up the wildfires is because I was off of work. I wanted to go fishing, but the smog, like from the wildfires, is
Yeah.
blowing north. It's a
Yep.
northerly wind. So it was probably like a 65 to 70-degree day. And I was sitting on my couch and it just clicked. And I'm like, I'm getting on the boat and I'm going fishing because how many opportunities do you have where on any other given day, it was going to be 70 to 75 degrees day, bluebird skies and sunny, and now you have smog in the air that's acting like clouds.
Hmm.
So I just hopped in, I went, and I believe I had just missed the full moon cycle. Like it was one day past the full moon cycle. And this full moon was the biggest and bright, it was the super moon of the year. It's actually called the Hunter's moon.
Oh, yeah.
Um, so I believe that was the one in October. So I missed it. So just like any other day, I get to the spot. I'm very meticulous, with my gear. So, I re-spool line and stuff and tot. A lot of people don't take the time. And, how many times do you see, oh, I broke off my PB because I didn't retie or check
Yeah.
my line. And, it's the end of the year for the Northeast. So you start to get a little lazy because it's
Yeah.
like, well,
Lackadaisical.
you're like, well, am I going to throw 15, $20 more line on these spools or save it for next spring?
Yeah.
Um, so I'd fresh everything. Um, Now the thing is with the rising sun, which I think is actually one of the coolest things about the bait,
Hmm.
is it gets better as it gets more tore up and more teeth marks on it. Like there's just something about it where they start to bite it and hold on even better.
Hmm.
So that 9 pounder that I caught the rising sun on, I tie on again. So I get to the lake, I square up, I'm fishing deeper water. Now I want to start fishing a little bit more shallow. See if they're going to chase things around the shallows,
Yeah.
starting to feed up and pin these bluegills back in the creek channels and the drains and stuff like that. Bombing out, let it sit there. Now I actually let it get to the bottom, and somebody had called me on the phone. So it's like one of those stories, right? So I cast it out. Somebody calls me on the phone. I'm like, screw it. I reel it up really quick, get it back to the boat, and just fire it back out to where it was.
Yeah.
Probably like 12 to 15 reel turns. I'm just fishing it like medium retrieve. Thump, right? So I set the hook. I'm like, oh, another tree stump, another tree stump story, right? And I set the hook, and the drag just starts going out instantly. I'm like, oh, here we go again. So now I'm fishing, it's a 7 foot medium heavy. It's Mickey's 316 rod, like it's
Yeah.
spiral wrapped. It's the strongest medium rod that I probably have ever fished. So I'm like, well, this fish is even bigger than the 9. I could
Right.
just feel it. It was giving me more of a hard time. I couldn't, for the life of me, I couldn't get it up at all.
Mm.
Like it was like I hooked into a bowling ball and the bowling ball was just sitting at the bottom of the lake. I couldn't budge the thing to the point where I had the drag all the way down, and I take my right hand off the reel and apply pressure about halfway up the rod
Yeah.
just to lift it so my rod didn't snap.
Yeah.
Um, so then it starts to come up, and I reel in the slack, and she comes up and she kind of like does one of those U-turns, but
Yep.
it's one of the U-turns where I got the polarized sunglasses so I could actually see how big it is.
Hmm.
And instantly I thought, I'm on the state record right now.
Yeah.
Like there was no doubt in my mind at the time. I'm like, this has got to be a state record. So she turns and runs, and then all of a sudden, like a switch just flipped, and she went completely just no fight.
Yeah.
So I get her like I'm like, oh, this is like the best thing that could have happened in this scenario because
Yeah.
she was giving me a run for my money,
Uh-huh.
and not that gear and this like I'll put my ego to the side. I'm running some of the best gear that the industry has, and
Yeah.
she's still giving me a run for my
Dogging
money. I'm
you.
like, I couldn't even imagine fighting this thing on like an entry level,
A
whatever it
Cardiff
is.
with
Like
a Cardiff with 13 pounds of drag.
yeah, yeah, that'll just like ruin your day real quick.
Yeah.
So she just goes limp, and I get her into the net, and I'm running one of those Frable
Yeah.
guide nets,
Yep.
so they're extra wide, and
Yeah.
she's just all of the net,
The whole thing. She was extra wide too.
dude, dude, and I was just like, I had to take a minute and compose myself because like A, in my mind, I'm like, I just caught the state record,
Yeah.
and B, like I was physically shaking.
Were you
I'm
still
like,
on the
I've never
phone
seen.
or did you hang up real fast?
No, I had hung up. I had hung up. And so I get her in, and I think she's 20. Yeah, I have a picture of her. So this is my new personal best,
Mhm.
right? This is my first double digit in New York.
Yeah.
Um, so she's 23 and a half. I weighed her 3 times. Okay.
Uh-huh.
The first reading I got was 11.3. The second one I got was 11.1.
Mhm.
And the third one, which is the one I took because I don't like to round up.
Yeah.
I'm just never one of those round upper guys. A lot of
Right.
people are. So the last reading, the reading that I got more consistently, or like the better read on the scale where it wasn't like jumping,
Yeah.
was 10.96.
Dude, still.
So and I have a picture of this. And if you thought the other one had
Dude,
shoulders, I
23
mean,
and a half inches and almost 11 pounds. Oh my gosh.
yep,
Yeah, dude. Oh my God. I mean, look at that thing. Like that gill plate is literally the size of the whole
yeah,
thing's back. Like everything on that fish is like
yep,
proponently is like the same size as extra large. That is insane. The
yep,
mouth
and
on that thing is massive. Like the jawbone, like if
it,
you guys are watching, like right where your like
yeah.
the jawbone that would connect the middle of your lip to like the corner of your lip, like where you want to hook a bass, like that jawbone on that bass looked like it was
Yeah.
about 2 inches tall. Like that thing was a mongoloid.
So, and just to put it in perspective, right? How big this fish is. So I'm 6'3", 220 pounds,
Mhm.
right? And when I show you this next photo, I was probably, I mean, the optics of it look like I'm
Right.
long arming it, but
Yeah.
I'm not because I actually took this photo on my iPhone because my other GoPro is a Hero 3 Silver. The thing's a glorified potato. And I'm like, I can't take pictures on that thing.
Yeah.
So I set the camera like it is now, and I
Yep.
set it on a timer just to get some clear,
Yeah.
up to date photos. So I'm going to show you this photo and how massive this fish was. All right.
Mhm.
And like you would think if I showed you this photo with no context, you would think Southern California, Texas,
Yeah.
or like Florida strain,
Florida.
right?
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, dude. I mean, look at that thing. How like look at your fingers and how it's like you still have like 6 inches to the top of that fish on that fin. Like
Yeah. Yep.
it's
Dude,
insane. And then like
it was just a big,
your fingers to the size of that lateral line, like how tall that lateral line is, the black lateral line on the bass. I mean, that looks like
yep.
those blotches are 3 inches tall. Like it has a 3 inch pronounced line. If you look at the
Yep.
fins, like the pec fins, the ones right above, right behind the gill plate, like those look like the size. Like if you hold your three fingers together, like that looks like how big those things are. Like that is like everything on that fish is like very proportionate to like it being a 23-inch bass. Like everything is absurdly large on
Yeah.
relatively like anywhere else in the country except for the north, a pretty small frame for a fish that big.
Yeah. And it's crazy. Like we had talked before earlier in the podcast about the length to weight
Yeah, yeah.
because I mean, I have it on my board. I've caught 24 to 24 and a half inch fish
Hmm.
that barely broke the 8 pound mark.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at this fish. I'm like, how completely stacked is that? I mean, I have my board here. Hold on.
Yeah, I was about to say, looking at my board, my biggest last year was right at 22 inches, and it was 6 even. And then I caught
Yep.
one that was 21 and a half that was 6'5", my PB. And I
Yeah.
thought the 6 pounder that was 22 inches was way bigger than 6 pounds just because how long it was. I was like, holy crap, this fish is long and it's got like a pretty decent gut. Like I was sold that it was going to be a 7.
Yeah. And you're using Gilbert's board, right? The
Yeah, yep.
working class zero.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking at some of the bigger fish that I've caught throughout the years. I mean, I've had this board has seen more big bass in the Northeast than
Yeah.
I could ever imagine when I first started out, right? So I'm looking at my 9.3 at 23 inches, and then my personal best of 10.96 at 23 and a half.
Yeah.
And then I also have on here a 23 and a half that weighed 7.4.
Dude.
And I have a borderline 25-inch fish that was my 2015
Yeah.
PB. The 812 was
Yeah.
borderline 25.
25. Oh my gosh, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, that
You
fish. And it's crazy to think, but I think if I caught that fish in 2015 pre-spawn, that it would have gave this one a run for its money. It might have
right.
been even more. But I mean, sometimes you get. But I also have one here, an 8.3 that didn't even touch 21.
Yeah, like a classic
So
northern strain build right there. But then
right.
you just talk about a 25-incher that quote unquote only weighed in at like 8.5 pounds. Like
Hmm.
that is absolutely absurd. If you said I caught a 25-inch fish in the Northeast, the upper Midwest Northeast, you would think like majority of people, especially around here in the area, would say that fish had to have been, 11 pounds, 12 pounds. Like that is an
Right.
absolutely long frame. All our fish here, if you guys are unfamiliar with northern strain fish, we don't necessarily grow the longest fish, but we grow absolute blimps. Like once they get over 18, 19 inches, they just start getting tall like a crappie. Like the bass start looking like crappie after a while. And to catch a 25-incher that didn't go 10 pounds for northern strain bass is crazy to me. Maybe people listening can't really fathom that, but that is that's
No.
like a Texas fish. Like they catch like a 27-incher and it weighs 8.5 pounds. That's the
Yeah.
stories you hear, and to hear that on a northern
Yep.
strain is insane.
And the first time I ever fished fork, I was scoping, and we pulled up on two fish that were on a vertical tree in about 30 feet of water,
Yeah.
and they were easily 13 to 14 pounds. And we were fishing with an A rig, and we would put the A rig right, a couple inches over their head. They would, run out, look
Mhm.
at it in open water, and then all of a sudden, bam, put on the brakes like it was nothing. And you were just looking at it, just cringing
Yeah.
on the live scope because it's like, oh my God, they would come within 2, 3, 4 inches of it. And you can see it in real time.
Right.
And I was just like, oh my God. I mean, Fork is just a different, I
Mhm.
know, OH Ivy, all those places. I
Yeah.
mean, that guy, Kyle Hall, he caught or I don't know if he caught it or the
I,
guy he was,
I think the
yeah.
guy he was with caught it on Kyle's
And
boat. But yeah, what was
it
that
was
like
16,
16 and a half or
16-4.
something? Yeah.
Yeah. And I was down in Texas during the time where Jason Kahn caught his 17.6,
Yep.
and I was about to make that drive to see it in real person because he went live with it, and
Mhm.
everybody else was blown. I think that was out of Ivy too.
Yeah, it was probably
Um,
Ivy early.
yeah, but I mean, and you said it best. These fish up here in the Northeast will spill over
Yeah.
the boards widthwise,
Hmm.
not
Right.
lengthwise,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's where they get the big full bellies full of eggs,
Hmm.
or the big shouldered fish that just pack on weight where you didn't even think that they could pack any. And
Yeah.
and sometimes you catch these fish where like you'll feel the end of the tail, and the
Hmm.
tail is just loaded with meat too.
And
Like
it's
this
just
this
yeah.
10.
Yeah.
Yep. Like their tails are just so much more fuller than I feel like the Florida strain ones.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I was curious about this fish in regards to, I'm like, well, it's 10.96. I'm like, I'm curious. So I emailed the guy, or the link at New York State Department of Environmental
Mhm.
Conservation.
Yep.
And I said, hey, I got this fish. I got the length, the width, the pictures, the weight. all the documentation in the world. Like I have it, and they're crazy strict, right, with their documentation. Like if
Yeah.
you would ever submit one for like a
Yep.
state record, and rightfully so, they have to be. Um, they needed a picture of it like lengthwise on a measuring board, right?
Hmm.
And then you need it the
Like a
picture of it
belly shot.
vertically,
Yeah. Yeah.
a belly shot. So you need a belly shot, a broad angle
Hmm.
shot, kind of like I showed you
Yeah.
with no obstruction,
Yeah.
and then you also need a picture of the mouth from the top down, showing that there's nothing in it.
Mm.
So I start to take pictures of it like
Yeah.
from here's the mouth straight down
Yep.
because with recent
Yeah.
events
Yeah.
of stuffing weights and walleye
Hmm.
and all that stuff. Um, so I sent it all, right? So a couple days later, they emailed me back and they said, "Hey, like congratulations, like awesome catch. That's the fourth biggest documented in New York State history."
That's awesome.
So,
The fourth though, that's
so that was
crazy.
well, right. So think about this. So 1096 is fourth, right? That's
Mhm.
me. There was a guy out west in the late 90s that had caught an 11.05, like just broke the 11.
Yeah.
The old state record was 11 pounds 4 ounces.
Mm.
So this fish that I caught was only 4 ounces off of the old state record, but now the
Four.
new state record that
Yeah, 4 ounces off your smallest weight too. Like just
yeah.
counting hairs there, smallest weight that you took out of the three. So it could have even been, 2.5, 3 ounces, a little bit. Like
hmm
it just up for interpretation on how you look at it. But yeah, that's insane.
So I had and then you're right to think about it in that I didn't even
Mhm.
think about it in that perspective. And then the 12.5,
Mhm.
right? So the 12.5 is the new record.
Yeah.
So let's just say that new record didn't happen this year.
Mhm.
I would have had to make a very, very tough decision to get this thing to like a post office
Yeah. Yeah.
because there's no way like to
Yeah.
me,
Counting
I'm not
group.
all about. I'm
Yep.
not killing a fish if I don't have to, but
Yeah.
at the same time, the 11.2, 11.3 reading that I
Yeah.
got.
It's like,
Okay, so
oh,
now,
oh.
right, and so, am I going to go off of my Brecknell or am I going to take that to get certified? And I think if that state record was still 11.4 at the time,
Yeah, it would have been hard to not
yeah,
do.
I would have been going, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, it would have killed the fish. But I mean, when do you take that ethical,
Chance or risk,
leap,
I
leap,
guess, is yeah.
right? Because you kill that fish. So let's just put it this way: that fish was healthy. There's no scars or nothing on it. Like it's just the complete alpha of
Mhm.
this body of water, right? Um, I can't help to think that if I catch her again this year, if she's still kicking around with some eggs in her, that she'll
Yeah.
be close to 13.
Yeah.
Um, and that's why I'm taking it so seriously this
Mhm.
year because I'm like I know where she is and where she feeds.
Yeah.
It's only a matter of time. It's like, can I get her? Can I keep her? Can I
Mhm.
can I get her again? Is she gonna outsmart me? Because now it's like I'm dealing with an 11-pound fish here. That
Yeah.
how many? I mean, I've never even heard in the Northeast. I think the biggest fish that I've ever seen in the Northeast, like in pictures and documented the proper way, was like a 9.4.
Yeah. Yeah. I've
Somewhere
seen
in that.
somebody
Yeah.
caught like a 10 in one of the groups like one of the Swimbait groups last year talked about it.
Yep.
But I think it was like a 10-2. Like it was like not to discredit a 10 pounder, but it was like a skosh into double digit land. It wasn't
Right.
like it wasn't a 10-8 or a 10-9 or something like that. It was a couple
Right.
gill eats into 10 pounds.
Yep.
So but
Yeah.
outside of that, like you hear a lot of 7 to 8.5 pounders, but you only every couple of years do you hear somebody catching a 10 out there, I feel like.
Yeah. And I think I actually remember now. I think I know who you're talking about. I think it
Mhm.
was a Massachusetts fish,
Yeah,
if
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
correct. But I remember, I mean, a behemoth.
yeah.
I saw that and I'm like, oh my God, if I ever break the 9-pound mark in New
Mhm.
York,
Yeah.
like let's just put it this way. Am I satisfied? Yes. Because
Mhm.
how many people up here are catching anything even over 7.5,
Yeah, 21 seven
let alone,
pounders. Yeah.
right. So 21 over 7, and then I got an 8.12 in 2015, and now I have a 9.3 and a 10.96.
Mhm.
So, and
In the
the amount
same
of
year too.
notoriety,
In the same year, which
it
is badass.
and it was August 19th and October 18th. So I had
Yeah.
a 9.3 and a 10.96 within ultimately 60 days.
Yeah, 2 months almost.
So, and one thing is, I mean, obviously now I'm talking on a podcast about it, but I post a picture on Swimbait Underground. I post a picture on Instagram.
Mhm.
I woke up to 300 message requests the next morning from people
Yeah.
that I don't even follow. Like the amount of notoriety that these two fish have gotten me is like it's just like it's breathtaking.
Mhm.
It's somewhat overwhelming because it's like, yeah, it's cool, but at the same time it's just kind of like, well, like I'm a trophy hunter. This is what I do. Like I like catching big fish and like I should expect it.
Mhm.
But the amount of people that have hit me up and go, "Where'd you catch it?"
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what pisses me off, I think, the
Right.
most, because it's kind of like, hey man, I've paid my dues.
Uh-huh.
I did 640 hours on
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
water last year,
Yeah.
which is like, I find the fish, I find where they're feeding,
Mhm.
I find what they want to eat, and I try to put myself in the best position to catch those fish and to get them in the boat.
Yep.
And a lot of people, whether you're just starting out or whether, some people that are kind of like not having the best year
Mhm.
and like want to have a good year,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's jealousy, but they want like that quick fix of like,
Yeah.
hey, where can I go to get
Like
like,
if I go to this lake,
one.
yeah, if I go to this lake, I
Right.
can probably catch a 6.5 pounder and I'll be happy. But then I could also catch this guy's 11 pounder that he just caught too. So yeah, I'll just ask him.
Yep.
Maybe he'll tell me.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to mention any names, but there was four people that have hit me up about when I caught the 10.96
Uh-huh.
and asking for guided trips.
Mm.
And the one guy offered me $7,000 for 4 days on the water.
Dude,
He
that's
goes, he goes,
crazy.
he goes, I'm not going to blow up your spot. He goes, we can go blindfolded to wherever you fish, but I want 4 days of your time. He goes, I want to fish the same body of water where you're catching these fish. And he goes, I'll give you $7,000 for a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Now,
Jeez.
A, okay, yeah. And that's what I was thinking too. It's just like, you tell me when and where.
Yeah. It's
But at
like
the same time, like,
unfathomable to think about.
yeah, because it's just, okay, what's that? $1,500 a day?
Yeah, yeah,
More than
that's not
that.
bad.
Seven,
Yeah.
seven. Yeah. Um, but at the same time, I'm thinking, what if I bring this guy here and he catches a 12?
That's okay. I was gonna bring that up after you were done talking. Yeah, like when you were talking about maybe like sharing the wealth, like catching a bunch of 7 pounders out of a lake, and you telling some people about it, and somebody goes and they luck into catching at the time what would have been bigger than your PB, like a 9.5 or a borderline
Mm-hmm.
10. Would you have been like, son of a, I can't believe I just did that. Like I just shot myself in the foot. Now this guy is gonna
Yep.
post about it. Like I don't mind telling like people I'm acquaintances with or like I can trust where to go, but
Mm-hmm.
my worry is that they'll catch a good fish, and I totally understand you catch a good fish and not be able to sit on it, and they want to post about it and talk about it, which their fish, they can do what they want. But again, it's like you're trusting other people to inner keep a secret that you have passed on to them. Some
Mm-hmm.
people you just can't do that with, unfortunately. Whether they mean to or not, especially if they
Mm-hmm.
catch a 10 pounder, you can't blame somebody for sitting on a 10 pounder, never posting about it or talking about it. So that's what I was gonna ask is if you if there was a reason or if it clicked, like maybe I should just keep it to myself and I can go back to that lake some other time if I want to start catching sevens again.
And that's a really excellent question. And I can answer this question honestly,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
And how I really feel about it, which I'm going to because I don't have a filter.
Yeah.
Okay. Most days.
Yeah.
And this is how I 100% think about this, right? I put in the time and I do the work.
Mhm.
I find these places to fish. I find these fish. I target these fish.
Yeah.
Okay. These fish, by no means of any imagination, I don't own these fish,
Right.
right? So for me to not tell someone where I caught them is kind of an injustice.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I'm not telling you,
Yeah.
right? Go out and do it yourself. Put
Yeah.
in the work, right? I
Yeah.
started from the ground up, okay? I wasn't, when I first started out, I was looking around at bodies of water that I kind of knew had fish,
Mhm.
and then slowly learned, like, I'm wasting my time here, time to find somewhere else.
Yeah.
And for the first 2 months of the year, right? March, April, all the way through mid-May, you will not find somebody on my boat with me. I can tell you that,
You're right.
because that's go time.
Yeah.
That's 100%. Because the first question you asked me, what's your go-to
What's the go-to?
snack at the
Yeah.
gas station, right? You got every Billy, Timmy, Jimmy, Susie, and whoever wants to go fishing with you, right?
Mhm.
I'm all about having a good time, but it's going to be after mid-May,
Yeah.
because every person that you put on your boat, they're dropping crumbs, they're banging, the
Yeah.
sides. They're not, they're out there to have a good time and catch fish. And then at the same time, I'm biting my lip and biting my tongue, because like I'm pulling up to an area where I'm like, any given time there could be an 8 to 11 pounder swimming
Yeah.
around. And you know but I won't tell people um where I fish,
Mhm.
per se. I tell them that they're around, and I tell them to do their homework. And
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be egotistical about it or stuff, but it's like, if I'm going to put all this time and all this time away from my family and dump tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars on fuel and licenses and
Yeah.
stuff like that, it's like, no, you can figure it out,
Mhm.
and you'll as you learn, you'll figure out where these fish are or where they're not,
Yeah.
and you'll know where to put a majority of your time and what bodies of water to avoid like the plague.
Mhm.
And if I have success somewhere, and we've all come to know and love the term the whole buzzards, right?
Yeah.
It goes back to what I was saying of how much is on my phone, my GoPro, and all this stuff that I just can't post it.
Yeah.
And if I do post it, I take the marker effect on Instagram,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
take the Sharpie and I make it as bold as I can, and I completely blur out the background,
Yep.
because I know if I post it, all the people with Google Maps and this and that will
And they'll
figure out.
they'll sleuth
And
it. Yep.
and I listen, man. I'll be honest. I got it good. I got a couple of local spots that are just absolute honey holes that are actually private, and
Mhm.
the homeowner has given me access, like full access. Goes launch your boat whenever you want,
Yeah.
and they're 50, 60, 70 acre ponds, and there's bass and bluegill, and that's it. And they're big
Mhm.
bass factories, and there's other local lakes, like I have talked about earlier, where
Yeah.
there was two boats, and then next thing you know, there's 20, because I made a
Yeah.
stupid social media post.
Yeah.
Um, but you gotta be real careful of what you put out there, how you put it out there, and what you post about, because the bite gets good. You want that bite not to be selfish, but you want that bite to be yours,
Yeah.
essentially, right?
Yep.
And you start posting these pictures of like 6.5, sevens, eights, nines, shit, even almost 11 pounder.
Yeah.
The word is going to get out, and the next thing you know, just because you wanted to show off a fish, which is rightfully
Mhm.
what I want to do. I like to post my big fish and
Yeah.
big fish only, but at the same time, I'm like, man, is this really gonna come around and
Bite
burn
me in
me?
the ass. Yeah.
Because right, because then you have every single Billy Bob in there with
Mhm.
a sinker and red Cajun line
Yeah.
and this and that, and they're going after these big fish too, and you're just like, damn, if I never posted that picture or went
Yep.
on that app or whatnot, it's like I would still have this place relatively to myself, a couple boats. And
Mhm.
I wanted to bring this up too, is like, if I knew half the stuff that, back then, like I feel like I would have been on more fish
Yeah.
a lot sooner. I
Mhm.
think that's like one of the big things that I tell people. It's like slow down when you're fishing.
Yeah.
Really, really pick it apart. People fish way too fast, whether in their retrieve or just skipping over water where they don't think holds a big fish.
Mhm.
Like you never know where something you can kind of tell where they're gonna be,
Yeah.
but until you thoroughly fish, like how I can't tell you the amount of people that I put on my boat. Right, we get to a spot, they make 6 casts, they don't catch anything, and they're like, "Oh,
Next
time to
spot.
time on
Yeah.
time." No, not even next spot, next lure. Like
Oh, oh.
yeah, like they'll make 5 or 6 casts and be like, well, they don't want this, flat squared, crankbait. So time to turn on or tie on a yellow spinner bait with a
Yeah.
gold spinner on it and try this out. And then they make 20 casts, don't catch anything. It's like, well, I'm gonna try this jig. It's like these fish are like looking at you, going like,
What
oh
the
my
hell's going
God,
on?
what is
Yeah.
happening? And they're fishing so fast that the fish are like,
Right. Yeah, watching it
instead of
whiz
like.
past him.
Yeah, because they're just like, well, the faster I can get it out there, the faster I can bring it back.
Which means the faster I can
And
tie
one of the
something else
crazy,
on.
and I'll send you some videos too. I got to go through my old GoPro. The amount of big fish over 6 pounds that I've had hit boat side
Mm,
and have scared the shit out of me
yeah.
is just crazy. And people bring their lures in, and as soon as they bring the lure, right, they raise their rod tip and
Yep.
they get it out of the water and fire it back deep. Uh, I was fishing with my buddy, and he was a witness to it. There was a 7.2 and a 6.8 that I caught last year in the same morning
Yeah.
that were probably within 6 inches to 3 feet away from the boat. It was on the 316, the baby wake in a
Yep.
blue goat color.
Wow.
And they would just come up and destroy it to the fact where like it was so close to the boat, like we were getting wet.
Yeah.
Um, it's just crazy, but trophy hunting it's taught me a lot about fishing
Mhm.
and a lot about life. And the one thing that I'm gonna say, when you start catching these big fish, your confidence goes through the roof. And
Yeah.
there's nothing better showing up to a body of water when you got the gear that I got, with the baits that I know that people aren't using or using too frequently, where these fish haven't seen.
Yeah.
um my head's in the game. Nobody's gonna tell me different. I've caught more fish in the last probably 3 years than some people might not ever catch. I don't know. I don't know how many people you know, on my two hands here have caught anything over 8.5 in the
Right.
Northeast.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Um,
That's a very small
so
number.
I mean, I've eclipsed 60 over 7 pounds in my career now, and now an 812, a 9.3, and a 10.96. So I'm sticking it to them. And one of the things I was gonna say, it sounds corny, right?
Mhm.
Um, I think what separates me from a lot of people is that I'm a better angler in the 12th and 13th hour on the lake
Yeah.
than most people are in their first hour,
Mm.
because my mental game
Hmm.
is so like, how many people that they get to a lake and they're not catching anything within like the first 2 hours, and they're so mentally checked out
Oh,
where they're
yeah.
not even like fishing anymore.
Yep.
They're just like, oh, there's no fish in here, oh,
In
what the
in
hell's going on?
in the
Obviously they don't want it today.
yeah. And the crazy thing about
Uh,
that is they're conventional guys too.
yup, yup.
Like
And
it's yeah, yeah, not to bash anybody, but like guys will go out there with like you said, flat-sided crankbait or a square bill or whatever, and if they're not catching them and they've retied everything else in their whole bat or their whole boat, like oh yep, they're not here today. Pack it up. We'll try it again this evening or tomorrow or whatever else it may be. We'll go get lunch and come back, and it's just like you guys haven't been here long
and
enough
I'm
to find out what they want or don't want.
Yeah, and I'm busier now than I've ever been with home life. So like usually when I first started out, I would go out. I mean, I would say like a short day for me would be about 10 hours.
Mm,
Um, so now a short trip for me is probably like 2.5 to 3, and
mhm.
anything on the longer side is probably 5 and 6. So
Yeah.
like I said before, of like weeding out bodies of water where you're just like, I'm not even gonna waste my time.
Mhm.
But I couldn't tell you how many times I've gone 0 for 9 at the plate with 9 strikeouts heading into the 10th hour. And then
Yeah.
in the 10th hour, I've caught a 6.5, a 7, and almost 8 in a 45-minute
Yeah.
stretch. I I went out last last July, I believe, and uh, I'm one of those guys in the summertime where like I'll get to the lake at 4:15 where it's
Mhm.
pitch black,
Yeah.
and I'm leaving the lake when everybody else is pulling in for the day.
Right.
Like if I'm not on the water by about 4
Hmm.
and off the lake about 9:30 when everyone else is pulling in, like
Yeah.
something's wrong. Like
Right.
send a rescue crew
Yeah.
because and it goes back to you need to learn your lake, pond, reservoir, whatever it is, and find out when these fish are feeding. And everyone thinks, oh my God, well, if you're not bass fishing in the summertime, in the morning or at night, like, oh, you're not going to catch them.
Hmm.
Well, let me tell you, there's this one spot where if you're not there fishing from noon to 4:30 in the afternoon, you're not going to get bit.
Yeah.
And then the other spot is if you're not at if you're not fishing from 11:30, 11:45 at night to about 3:30 in the morning, you're not getting bit either
Hmm.
because they're diurnal and they've programmed themselves to like completely bite at night. So I've learned, okay, well, if my schedule is this, I can show up to this body of water
Yeah.
and completely crush it for 5 hours. And, and it goes back to, hey, people, put in your time and,
Hmm.
and learn. And not everything that you read in the book is face value.
Yeah.
Um, these bass have different feeding times in times of day and times of night. There's one specific spot where if you're not fishing
Hmm.
from 3 in the morning to 8:30 in the morning
Hmm.
here, you're not going to get bit. And people don't understand that. And I tell
Yeah.
them all the time, it's like if you're not showing up by like 4 in the morning and fishing till 7 when the sun's coming up,
Hmm.
especially in the early summer, like you're
Yeah.
not going to get bit. And those same people will show up to the lake and get frustrated and literally will post on social media, "Do not fish here. There are no fish here. I've never caught a fish here. Yada yada yada." And I'm just shaking my head and be like, I just want to send him a DM. It's like, yeah, buddy, I just caught this 6.5, 7 pounder like
Yeah.
3 hours ago. And by the way, when you were pulling up to the lake, I was leaving for the day.
Yeah.
So, man, it's crazy the amount that I've learned. And people think I'm nuts, right? Like I post
Hmm.
on my Instagram story, like, oh, heading out for the night or still out here fishing.
Yeah.
It's 12, 12:30, 1 o'clock, full
Hmm.
moon cycle. And there was this one morning in July. I didn't catch anything from 3:30 in the morning till about 7.
Hmm.
That 7 o'clock hour hit, and I don't know what happened, but I had three in the boat that were over 7.5 pounds in a 40-minute time period,
Yeah.
and it was all on the 316 Wake Junior and perch color.
Mm.
They were just coming up and just annihilating it.
Yeah.
And I had three. It's on my Instagram page, dude. They were all 20 and a half to 21 and a half inches, and just butterballs, and they were just annihilating it. But it just goes to show you, and like I said, I'll be a better angler and a better trophy hunter in those late hours than you could ever be showing up.
Yeah.
And it's just my mental game is there because I know it's like don't quit because you know it may be 4, 5, 6 hours of just hell, and let's be honest, I may not get bit for 6 hours,
Hmm.
but I do know when I do get bit, I do have a chance to be anywhere over that 6.5, 7 mark on
Yeah.
any given day, and
Yep.
it's going to be worth it. And people ask me like, "Oh, how was the fishing today?" I said, "Well, from noon to 6:30, it sucked, but man, from 6:45 to 7:15, I
Yeah.
had my limit.
It was
You know,
knockout. Yeah.
yeah." But yeah, I hope I didn't ramble too much.
It,
And I
I,
mean,
I
I
mean,
feel like there's just so much to talk about.
yeah.
But I
Yeah.
mean,
No, dude, I mean, I think we touched on some really good stuff. I hope people that listen to this, like the guys down south, not that they can't comprehend, but maybe they don't wrap their mind around what we do, like what we have to work with here in the north, especially the winter thing that we were talking about
yep.
before and stuff. Like these fish, realistically, if they're lucky, they have 7.5 to 8.5 months to like, I mean, that's stretching it on like a mild winter,
Mhm.
but they have that much time to put as much meat on their bones as they can, and then they go dormant for 3.5 to 4 months, and it's just like
Mhm.
barely any movement. And you know even like right now, you were talking about your weather patterns before we started recording, and Monday we're supposed to get like 3.5 to 6 inches of snow. Like these fish, they're not dormant, but they're really moving slow. Like they really don't want to eat
Hmm.
your tube or jerk bait if it's going past, let alone your glide bait or soft
Nope.
bait or the perch that are swimming by or whatever else. Like these fish are still their metabolism hasn't fired up yet. They're not firing on all cylinders. And so you like this is the time where it's kind of nice right now because like this is the time where you don't have to take off work or anything. You don't have to leave any obligations because you're like, well, the fish aren't firing yet. But then
Hmm.
it's also around these years that it happens all in the course of 4 weeks. Like it goes from 38-degree water. We're like right now we're right at like 41 degrees, which is like really starting to get to the point where I like to fish like that 43 to like 48 degrees. Like I can hammer them. And in that
Yep.
like that seems like there's some years where that's like a almost a month thing, like all of April, and then it's some
Yeah.
years like now like we're recording this at the beginning of April, but if this weather pattern keeps up to the middle or end of April, if it doesn't break till, April 25th, which is like a Friday 4 weeks from now, you're going into May and these fish are just they're gonna be snapping off the whole month of May, and it's like wow,
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy to think about how fast the fishing turns on up here, and then how fast it goes from spawn to dog days of summer too.
It's funny you say that because I was thinking about exactly what you just said, like the other day, because I've only been out once this year.
Yep.
And it was just a quick shore session. I think I fished 5 hours.
Yeah.
Now, let me see this fish. I actually just posted it on my Instagram. It was the only bite I had all day. It was 7.21 pounds and 23 inches.
Yep.
It's
I
the
see
first.
that.
So, yep. So that was one fish, one bite all day, right? So,
Mhm.
and that water temp it's 46 here, so it's a little bit warmer.
Yeah.
Um, but for all the progress that we're making throughout the day with the water temps,
Yeah.
right now it's just weird because I'm losing it at
We
night.
lose it at
Like,
night. Yep. I took the words right out of
yeah,
my
and
mouth,
it's
dude.
just, dude, it's like today. It rained last night and it was 63 and partly sunny today.
Hmm.
Tonight it's going to drop right back off.
Yep.
So even if it went up,
Yeah.
say on a good day, it might go up 2 degrees.
Hmm.
It's going right back down
Yeah.
and I don't know what day did you say you're getting snow? Because I think we might
Um,
have snow in our forecast too, like
Monday.
Tuesday, Wednesday
Yeah,
next
yeah. So
week.
you're getting that storm
Y-
system that's rolling through here. It'll hit you guys a day or
Yep.
two later. Yeah.
Yep. And now we had 70 degrees days in February this year, and
Yep.
now
We
we're
had a
going to head
couple
into the
60s.
second week of April.
Yeah.
And there was a wind chill advisory for next
Mm.
Tuesday night where it's going to be 13, 14 degrees with the wind chill. And I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised if some of my spots in the shallows, there's ice again.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Sadly, but I think it's going to be a grind of a spring.
Hmm.
But the problem is, if you're not on it,
Hmm.
and these fish are running like, oh, it's nice, it's a nice afternoon, let's try to get up a little bit more
Yeah.
shallow, and then it gets colder and they're
And dip
running
right
right
back
back down
off.
to deeper water.
Yep.
But the problem is, if you don't get ahead of them and stay ahead of them,
Hmm.
and if you don't know where they are, you're going to have a real tough
You're gonna
spring,
be chasing them.
and
Yeah.
you're going to be chasing them because you're going to be showing up and going, are they already off those secondary points and,
Yeah.
and pushing up to the shallows to find their beds, or are they trying to get out of the depths and try to
Run.
find those
Yeah.
secondary points? But you don't want to be caught in the middle because
Hmm.
I've been caught in the middle for a few springs and I
It's
wasn't on
you're
any good fish until
fighting.
about mid-May.
Yeah. Yeah. You're
You know,
fighting for like 2 weeks of good fishing once you figure out what the hell's going on.
yeah, and you have those weird 2, 3, 4.5 pound males that are just like guarding the beds that will
Yeah.
come up and eat anything.
Yep.
But you're looking for a big mama,
Hmm.
and you're like, is Big Mama on her bed and the dad, and the male's
Is
around,
protecting.
or
Yeah. Or
is
is
Big
he
Mama still on
fanning or
her?
what's he doing? Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, you're still catching fish, but nothing like what I'm looking for, and
Hmm.
it's like, and it's funny you say that because it's like with work. I take off 2 weeks. I take off the last week of April and the first week of May. I
Hmm.
try to take it off every year.
Yeah.
Time and scheduling allows it because I know, in upstate New York, well, the water temp could be 50 or it could be pushing 62 or
Yeah.
63, 64, depending on,
Yep.
you get that nice stretch of 75
Middle of
to
May
78
or yeah, middle of
degree
April
days.
going into May. Yeah.
But it's just weird because it's like in 2023 in April, like I'm like, holy crap, these bass already are up on their beds. And it's like the end of the second week of April.
Mm.
And like last year was a little bit cooler where they weren't up on their beds until like middle of May. It was almost a little weird.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why I had a good year, because those transition points were
Hmm.
a little bit slower. But I think this spring is going to be especially tough. And I'm fishing a couple of baits that I haven't fished before this spring too. So I'm kind of anticipating a little bit of an off year,
Yeah.
because I'm still learning them. With any
Hmm.
new bait, you got to put in 40, 50, 60 hours to truly learn how they're eating it and where they want it to be. But
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah, well, dude, this walks us perfect into kind of wrapping it up a little bit here in
Yep.
this episode's fantasy draft, the S&T fantasy draft. So this
Yeah.
week, so both of us are northern guys, both of us northern guys. So I figured, what better way to do this? The three pick fantasy draft. You guys are unfamiliar. I will spout out the topic. I gave kind of Jeff the idea of the topic before we started to record. So the topic for this episode for this week is gonna be, like, if you could only use three baits throughout the year to try to catch a trophy bass in New York, in Michigan, like some of these northern states. Okay, so I'll give you a couple seconds to think about that, and I'll kind of explain the rules again. So since I am the host and I come up with the since I kind of come up with uh the object of the draft, I always figure that it's never fair for me to get the first draft pick. So you Jeff will get the first and second draft pick. Therefore, I will get my first draft pick. You will finish with your last draft, and then I will do my second and third. So you have two picks. I get one. You get your last one, and then I get my last two, just to make it a little fair. Just so you can take your
All right.
two, the two that come to your mind, since I kind of get to stew on these a little bit longer than you do, since I've kind of got it in my head. So again, if you guys didn't hear, the objective of this draft is for three baits that you can only fish throughout the year, and we're trying to catch the biggest bass we have in our waters. So uh
Mhm.
more so, let's when you say your bait, give me a reason why you're picking that, whether it's like a confidence thing, or that they kind of, that's the forage they're going at throughout the year, whatever else it may be.
Mhm.
So whenever you're ready, man, shoot me off your first
Yep.
draft pick, your description, then give me your second draft pick with your description too.
So the first pick, 316 Wake Junior, and specifically the perch color, because up here they just annihilate anything that's perch. It's kind of like a delicacy to them.
Mhm.
Now, around here, obviously, that's a wake bait. However, that bait, if you're cranking it,
Mhm.
if you want to crank it, you can get it about down 2 to 3 feet.
Yeah.
Um, but there's something about that bait where it almost, I want to say, it kind of pisses them off.
Mm.
Um, it, it's it's a loud, like, clack clack clack. You can fish it super slow. You can fish it mid, and you can actually burn it back or crank it. So it's got more of a versatility to it. And what's nice is that it's a big bait, but it's not an overwhelmingly giant bait where it actually hurts your shoulders to
Yeah.
throw around. I mean, it's 7.5 inches, so I think it's right around
Yeah.
2.75 or three
Freaking
ounces.
nothing. Yeah.
So no, and
Especially
if
with
you got the
nice
right
gear,
setup,
nothing. Yeah.
yep. So I mean, that I think that bait, um, if I'm not mistaken, I know I caught like 21 over 7. I mean,
Absurd.
last year, but I mean,
Yeah.
I think over probably 10 to 12 of them were on that bait.
Hmm.
And they just, I mean, they come up and they T-bone it, and there's two good size owner trebles on it, and they
Hmm.
just can't throw it. I mean, they either get one in this side and one in the upper,
Yeah.
or one, any
Yep.
combination, or even if they just get one, that bait isn't so heavy where they can get leverage and
Get
kind of
leverage.
throw
Yeah.
it. Right. And what's nice about it is, like, on those warm days where you get up shallow and, maybe 2, 3, 4 feet of water,
Hmm.
I'll throw it up there and just dead twitch it. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden I'll just start cranking it as fast as I can to get it down a couple
Hmm.
feet, and they'll hit it like an oversized crankbait.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then number two, um, I'm gonna say for cold, I'm gonna go cold water.
Yep.
A really cold water bait. As much as I love the Huddleston, as much as, like, it's like an awesome cold water bait, and
Yeah.
I've caught like my personal best on it, I'm gonna have to go Hog Hunter, or the old
Ooh.
Batesmith mag.
Yeah.
Um, I have one. I have one in perch, and then I have one that one of the bait. Like I used to fool around with like painting baits and stuff, and like I got good at it, but like I wasn't like Bass Jack or any of those
Right,
guys who
yeah,
just
yeah.
like they put like they make it better than like the real thing.
Yeah.
Um, I would say for cold water
Hmm.
and for that overly sized jumbo sized bait where it's like you can fish it in cold water slowly
Yeah.
or just even crash it or just make those bomb casts and
Hmm.
just start to search water. I'm just gonna go with the hog hunter. Um, it's versatile.
Yeah.
Good quality. I mean, I know they're expensive, but if you get them painted or custom color matched to anything, I mean, it's gonna be up there with the largest bait fish
Yeah.
that's in your lake, no matter what color it is. So,
And there's
um,
multiple rigging options too. You can add treble hooks, belly treble hook, rear back treble hook, cut the jig hook off, run a stinger hook.
yep,
Like there is
there,
plenty of options you can do with that thing
and
too.
and also another underrated option is actually just this. I know a lot of people give me a lot of shit for this, but I'm telling you what, I've never had an issue with that jig hook.
Yeah,
And
let's say.
sometimes I just leave it be.
Hmm.
But I understand the need for this stinger.
Yeah.
I get it because that bait, the jig hook's all the way up here, and if you have the
Hmm.
tail back here,
Yeah.
by the time they fold it up, like sometimes they fold up that tail right on the jig hook,
Yeah. And you
and
hook the
it's
tail.
just a
Yeah.
it's you hook the tail, and
Yep.
they're just like, ha, peace.
Hmm.
Um, but so yeah, Wake Junior 1, 2 is Hog Hunter. Then I'll give you
Yeah,
your time to
I'll do
shine here.
my first draft pick. My first draft pick just because I caught a lot of good fish on it last year, and it is a wake. You can wake it or you can crank it down. I had all my success with cranking it down, but I think night
Mhm.
fishing it up on top in certain bodies of water that it kind of matches the forage could be absolutely killer. For my first draft in this show's draft class, I'm taking the ZFG trout. Are you familiar with that bait?
I've never fished it, but I've seen it, and I want one.
It is a
But at the same
very
time, it's
nice
like
bait. I like it.
it's it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful bait,
Hmm.
and that's the thing is like, and we talked about this earlier in the show.
Yeah.
There are literally
Mm.
too many options now,
Yep.
and when do you steer away from, oh, this works for me,
Hmm.
and I'm gonna stick to my old faithful bait
Yeah.
like the Wake Junior has just been crushing it. It's
Yep.
like, when do I take that leap of faith and go, this can stay on the shelf, and I'm
Hmm.
gonna try the ZFG, the trout, and
Yeah.
give that a go. But then confidently, you have
Yep.
to fit. I would say you'd have to fish it for an entire season to
Yeah.
get comfortable with it,
Hmm.
and play around with hook size
And
and split rings
retrieves
and
and all
see.
sorts of stuff.
Yeah, but I know exactly what you're talking about, and I've seen it, and I just haven't bit the bullet yet.
Mhm.
Well, we'll have to do a bait swap. I'll have to
Yeah,
send
dude,
you
I'm down.
yeah,
I'm down for that.
you have to send me something that you've never fished. I mean, this is only some of the stuff behind me,
Yeah.
but well, I'll have to whatever you've been trying to get your hands on,
Hmm.
and we'll have to come up with something where we'd be
Yeah.
like, hey, try this out, and then when you're done with it, we'll just send them back.
Yeah. Heck yeah, man. What is
Do
your
you
third
do you
draft? Oh, what's up?
now with that trout?
Yeah.
Have you played around with like trying to make it like suspend more? Like how do you normally fish that?
So what I did last year, like a shallower drop off on this lake that these fish use as kind of like a highway to pull up shallow, dip off deep if they have to. Like they'll just slide up and down throughout the day.
Right.
I'm bombing it over this. It's probably in about 13 feet of water, bombing it, and I'm cranking it down. I think it probably only cranks down to like 2.5 feet. So I'm just under,
Mhm.
like I'm still way high up in the water column. But those fish, I think when they slide up, they're not tucked on bottom. Like I've seen them like just kind of stroll through, and they're only,
Yep.
five or six. There's some characteristics of this lake that make them not be right on bottom. So those fish, like that's like little above eye level, the way the bass's eye is. So that's how I had all my success. I caught the six, I caught a bunch of fives, a couple five and a halves out of other bodies of water. So I've been cranking it down, but it's an absolute killer wake bait too. You can get that thing just to barely crawl, or you can get it to crawl fast, or you can just like get a little bit of a wider crawl. It's a super cool bait. It's got a light clicking noise too, which it's not super over the top, but if you're fishing it at night, you can kind of hear it and you kind of tell if it's swimming right. It's
Yeah, and they can hear and feel that
yeah,
click a long
yeah,
ways away.
and it's
So
not
if
like
you have that
super
at night,
obnoxious either.
uh-huh.
And it's I think it's like 10 and a half inches, but it doesn't really fish like a 10 and a half inch bait. And it casts
Hmm.
I mean it's a slender trout profile, so it casts like a punker does, like it casts like a bullet or a slammer. So you can just spool yourself out, let it sit there for a second, crank it down, let it float back up,
Hmm.
wake it. Like you can fish it a multitude of ways, and it just is it's a pretty fishy bait for what it is, in my opinion, for how quote unquote how big it is. I don't think it's a big bait, but for the size of it, I mean it catches a lot of good fish. A lot of not even
But
a lot of good
having
fish, a lot of medium sized fish.
but having versatility in a bait like
Yeah.
that, I mean, it's just so badass when you can find a good bait that's
Hmm.
like, oh, I can fish it as a killer wake
Yeah.
and then still have the option to crank it down
Hmm.
on those nicer days, and those days where they might be even glued to the bottom, but they're
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
looking up at it and going, wow, that is an oversized crankbait. And then they just come up, and when they hit it, because they hit it like a train.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Like,
so
whoa, you like
sometimes,
sleep into it.
yeah,
Stops it. Like stop like
yeah.
your reel gets all gummy and you're just barely picking up anything. Yeah. So fun, man.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah,
Absolute
I agree.
blast. What is your what are you closing up your draft class with your third pick in the draft? What's the go-to for you? Oh, for people who aren't watching, he's turning around, he's surveying the wall, he's deciding what he's wanting. Maybe he's looking up in the rats at the top corner. Maybe he's looking at the rising suns. What's he gonna pick,
You know,
everybody? What's he gonna
it
pick?
I'm a little biased, because I'm close with Mickey and the 316 crew.
Yeah,
Um, but how could I not pick the bait that I've got a 9 and an almost 11 on? It would have to be the Rising Sun.
rising sun.
And I don't know if it's allowed, but obviously that there's three sizes
Oh,
of the
it's
Rising
allowed.
Sun,
Yeah,
right?
any variant of it or
Yeah.
size. Yeah.
So there's obviously the 5 inch,
Yep.
and then the 6.75, which is weedless, and the line through, either the line through bottom hook or the line through top hook, which I just think is like awesome.
Yeah.
Um, and then the 8 inch. I mean, Jesus, you could go out and fish the river with the 8 inch with an underspin and
Mhm.
catch stripers on it because
Yeah.
it's that magnum of the size. But I would say the Rising Sun, because with that bait, the way
Hmm.
you can fish it slow in cold water.
Yep.
And then when that water gets boiling, man, summertime, you can toss it up in 4 inches of water and
Yeah.
burn it out of there. And those fish will just annihilate it. And
Hmm.
some of those days I like to go when it's hot,
Hmm.
and those fish are just tucked into the structure, and I'll just
Yeah.
structure fish all day with it. I'll
Right.
throw the 5 inch. I like the Rising Sun, weedless. Now, hear me out. Um, I don't like to give away all my secrets, but there's a certain color that Mickey sells that
Uh-huh.
I just kill it on up
Yeah.
here. And I modify it just slightly. Um, so what I do is I'll take a little bit of like a sparkling glitter glue,
Mm.
right?
Hmm.
And I add it to the flat part of the paddle tail in the
Yeah.
back. So when that thing's going,
Yeah. It's
it's
just
almost
throwing.
it's
It's like a disco
it's
ball.
throwing it's a disco ball, and it's for predominantly dirty
Hmm.
colors, or like a dirty water.
Yeah.
But it almost like looks like a small like a rig
Hmm.
because of the way that it's just moving all around. It's giving
Yeah.
that shimmer. So I'm gonna go 5 inch Rising Sun weedless with the beast hook.
Okay.
So that's what I caught the 9 and the 10.96 on.
Yeah.
Um, just because it's a year-round bait for me now. Um, with that bait, I mean, they can't throw that beast hook,
Right.
especially with the fluorocarbon. I
Yep.
mean, you drive it home, either your rod's gonna break or your knot's gonna break, and
Hmm.
I mean, you're not bending that hook.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but that bait, there's something about it where that 5 inch is like, I'm not gonna say snack size.
Right.
I would say it's just above snack size, where it's
Yeah.
like most people aren't throwing a 5 inch bait, and it's like it's still like probably about that thick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so to them, it looks like there's a specific color that I throw that mimics perfectly like small bass fry,
Mm.
and I found out in a couple of these lakes where they're more cannibalistic,
Yeah.
and it just screams
Just
like
sets them off.
young, dumb, juvenile bass.
Yeah.
Like I'll throw it out in the middle of 20 feet of water off a lay down or a tree stump or
Mhm.
something where that fish wouldn't be by itself,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it gets crushed.
Hmm.
But like I said, that's number three because it's like cold water,
Yeah.
warming up water,
Yep.
hot water, and then cold. Like wherever that water temperature is, fish it accordingly, and you'll get bit. And this bait is so durable. I mean, especially if you get a soft bait glue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I
Yep.
mean, I actually have. I don't know if you can see it. Up on the wall there, I
Oh,
have
that is
shadow
sweet.
boxes of all these fish, and
Yeah.
the baits are actually still. So up in those is actually the rising sun on the bottom.
That's
Um,
awesome.
so that rising sun, um, probably had like 75 to like 100 just fish bass on it in general,
Yeah.
and I glued it back together like 6 or 7 times with the soft bait glue,
Yeah.
and I just keep fishing. And like I said before earlier in the podcast, the more that thing got bit and the more teeth marks that are on it, like the more it was getting bit because I think
Mhm.
it just looks like it's an old beat up like bait fish and
Yeah.
like you know keep it simple, keep it clean, but make it look a little bit different,
Yeah.
and the fish will annihilate it.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I'm not gonna ramble on all day about the rising sun. But so
No.
yeah,
Yeah.
go Wake Junior number one, Hog Hunter, and then whatever version of the rising sun
Yeah.
any angler out there wants to fish, whether it's a 6.75 line through and more open water where you're not gonna get snagged.
Mhm.
I just prefer weedless because I'm literally like bumping it off of tree stumps
Right.
and rock
Yeah.
piles and stuff like that, and it is what it is.
Yeah. My second pick, it kind of goes hand in hand with the Rising Sun, is the 7-inch Citizen. And that is a bait
Yep.
that I have fished in lily pad, like not even flipping it, just bombing cast into lily pads and just burning it over the lily pad like a road runner, toad grub, whatever they're called, the conventional baits. Like I will fish it like that. I've caught a couple fish doing that. I have caught fish bumping it on bottom, sinking it down in 20 foot, 7 foot down, like like literally crawling it up, inclines and stuff. It's a killer bait. I mean, it's a 7-inch bait, like you said, like the 5 inch. It's not big, it's not small. It's a pretty, like, you can catch 4 pounders on the 7-inch Citizen
Yep.
like nobody's business. But it also has like a big fish, like that tail kicks so much, and yeah, I think it's
It's
just
a in your face kind of kick.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like it's got like the whole like it like has the crazy tail kick to it, and it's got a kind of little head shimmy too. It's just a clean, simple bait. The new version's super easy to rig, so anybody like that was kind of the big gripe is people do not like putting in screw locks into heads because they can never get them straight or they ruin them while they're rigging it, and they need to get the soft bait glue from somebody to fix it. So just the ease of rigging, that's also the big
Yeah.
thing that I have. And my PB is on the 7-inch Citizen, so I'm kind of biased like that. Kind of same with
Yeah.
you for your third pick. So those kind of go hand in
I
hand.
I I bought a funny story is back when he introduced I think it was I want to say it was the goblin color.
Yeah.
I had bought a pack. I never had fished it before. Uh, Accidentally left it at the boat launch and no longer have it. Never got. I took it out to organize my tackle bag,
Uh-huh.
and I had left a brand new pack, 2 pack. I think of the Goblin. I think it was the 7-inch that I bought, and never had opened it. Never had gotten to fish it, and somebody else scooped it up. So somebody out there has
Probably
fifty
has no
dollars,
idea
sixty
what they
dollar.
have.
No, probably some 5 year old that has a
Yeah.
Snoopy pole,
Yeah.
and it's probably sitting on his grandfather's shelf out there somewhere. But listen, I believe you because that bait has taken off and taken the
Yeah.
internet by storm.
Hmm.
And someday I'm just gonna, I'm gonna buy another pack, tie it on, and leave
Yeah.
it tied on all summer and try it out. And I'm grateful that you called a personal best on it
Yeah.
because I've seen that tail, like how it looks in the
Hmm.
water, and like you said, it's so distinct.
Yeah. It's like
Like
it's like come
it
eat me. Come mess with me.
yeah, and it's it's erratically different where the fish are like, oh, something's up with that.
Yeah.
Like it almost looks like it's like trying to get away, but it's not at the
Yeah,
same
like it's
time.
like moving in slow motion, like it just can't go anywhere
Yeah.
fast enough.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to get my hands on it at some point.
And then this is another for my third pick in this draft class. This is another bait that I think is a staple for around the time that you personally would start taking people out on the boat by the sounds of it. When those bass are done
Hmm.
spawning, those gills move up and they start making out their beds, and these bass are, cruising around trying to get that pre-spawn meal back up. The Depths Bull
Hmm.
Shooter 160. Uh,
Nice.
it is a
Nice. Yep.
beautiful the bluegill pattern, paint, print, whatever you want to call it. It's absolutely beautiful, very spot on to the kind of gills we have up here. A little bit more color, but it doesn't. I don't think that
Hmm.
really matters too much. Absolutely beautiful. Pretty good glide to it. Comes with quality hardware out of the package. Slow sink. I like that in my glide baits. And if you fish that around bluegill, brim beds, whatever the heck you want to call them, the bass will eat it. It's just how it is. For I think they're like $60 on Amazon. You can buy them. Not necessarily a crazy expensive or a crazy cheap bait, but something that's dependable that you can buy. And more times than not, if you tie it on, you're probably going to catch a couple fish throughout the day, even if you're fishing in an open water. Bluegill, especially like you were talking about in your lakes, bluegill, I think everywhere, especially in the Midwest and in the Northeast, is high up
Hmm.
on that predatory fish eating list. So it's just a bait that is kind of gonna catch fish. It's more or less just how much time you're gonna put in with it, because when you get confidence in it, it's gonna be hard to set down. There was a day where I think I caught like two, probably a dozen and a half, borderline 2 dozen, like 16-inch fish on the bull shooter. Like I could not stop. And then like my second to last cast with it of the day, I hooked an absolute giant and it shook off and I was heartbroken. But I was like, well, I knew that was going to happen. And of course it was the last fish of the day and I just wasn't in that mindset. I was right back at the boat ramp, shook off, absolutely terrible, but absolute killer
You know,
bait.
it's
I think it has a room in
that's
everybody's box.
that's a great bait, and you know what? It kind of pisses me off too because when that bait first came out, I
Uh-huh.
could not get my hands on it
I believe
because the
that.
depths just went from like nothing to everything with
Yeah.
with the way Butch was promoting it.
Mhm.
Um, and behind me, I think I have I have the Butch Brown, the bluegill, the
Oh,
depths 250.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and I haven't really. I hear like everyone raves about it, like, oh, it's the best glide on the market. You know, it's got that subtle,
Yeah.
sound to it. I haven't even messed around with it because I'm too busy. I
Right.
leave the gill glide turned on or uh, the perch
Mhm.
workhorse, the
Yeah.
316 workhorse. I mean, that thing just swims beautifully, and um, but that bull shooter, right? It's the 160 you said.
Yeah. Yep.
It was like they introduced it, and I don't know what website it was on, whether it was depths like limited for the web members or Tackle Warehouse. I think like it was sold out in like 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Like
I
you could
would
not, and I
believe
don't
that.
think I don't even think it was $60 when they. I think it was like 120.
Yeah, I think that's probably what they are, but for some reason Amazon from like Japan, Amazon will always run deals on them for some reason.
Yeah,
It takes like a week and a half to get it, but it's usually pretty worth it for a bull shooter, I think.
yeah. So I have a question for you.
What's up? What do we got?
What's your rarest bait that you have that either A, you'll never let go of, or B, you'll probably never fish? Now, I'm not like, I like collecting some baits, like I like hook rash and all my baits,
Yeah.
so that's where I stand on it. But I got one. I got a,
Is it the
I got
perch?
a
Is it the perch Armageddon?
well, I have
I was about to say
that.
I had
I
seen
have a
that. I
perch.
saw that
Yeah,
on your Instagram, so that's what I thought you were going
yeah.
with that.
No, it's actually well, I got a couple rarer baits. I got one of Mickey's original 10-inch OG rainbow trouts, the hand dotted
Wow.
Sharpie one with the
Yeah.
round lip.
Yep.
And then one of his OG ones with it's the matte carp, it's without the clear coat.
Mm-hmm.
And then right above that, I don't know if you could see it, is that Lake Fork Special
Yeah.
Gizzard Glide.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's signed by him 2018 when he first came out with it. So that's
That's
one of
so
the
cool.
OGs. But one bait that a lot of people don't know that I have, it's through my research, okay, and
Uh-huh.
maybe someone else will tell you different, but deep in my collection, I have one of the OG original generic Huddlestons in
Mm.
the HBC color. It's it was a misrun of colors where the HBC color came out darker than it was supposed to.
Yeah.
supposedly there was 10 of these and a rate of fall 5. In the bag, it's still new in bag,
Wow.
and it's signed by Ken.
By Ken? Wow.
And the last one that sold on eBay sold for over 15 grand.
That's crazy.
So it's in a Plano box,
Yeah.
buried in my collection, new, still in bag, signed. I'm never taking it out.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm probably just gonna put it in a safe somewhere. Like it's never gonna be open.
Yeah.
It's never gonna see water. And then someday down the road, whether I give it to a family member or whatnot, or
Mhm.
maybe they do like swim baits for autism, one of those
Yeah.
causes, right? Um, I'm just gonna get it out and be like, well, I'm either gonna sell this or I'm gonna raffle it off because there are big time collectors out there
Right.
on like underground that like follow these companies and like
Hmm.
whether you like 316 or there's a guy that he collects 316 baits and that's
Yeah.
all he does is collect and collect and collect and like well every color variation. Same thing with
Hmm.
like the MS slammers. there's
Yeah.
there's collectors out there that it's the coolest thing because they have thousands of these
Hmm.
baits and I mean my bait collection, I don't know if you totaled everything up, it's probably over like 20 grand.
Yeah.
But I'm not a bait collector by any means. Like
Hmm.
I like to fish my stuff.
Yeah.
um but I don't think that bait will ever come out of the package, and when I do, it's gonna be for a good cause. Now, I just think it's cool that it's signed by
Yeah,
Ken.
that is sweet. That's really cool.
Yeah. So I
Um,
would say,
I I think my coolest is probably this guy from Bass Rock, the Japan rat. But to my
ooh,
knowledge, this is the only one in the US.
well, you better not fish that thing then.
Well, you see, that's the problem is I really want to fish it. He
But you
has
know what?
plans to bring him to the US and we're really good friends. So he wants me to fish it really badly. So I'm going to because I don't know. I really like the way it looks. I got it like in November or December. So I literally have not been able to cast it yet. But from the videos he's posted of the swim videos and stuff, it's a pretty
Hmm.
legit bait. I'm super excited for that. And if I can go out and I can catch a 5.5, 6 pounder on it at night and I send him a picture, he'll be more than happy. And then I will be a little bit more okay with setting it on my rack for a little while.
And do you know what's crazy about having these super rare baits, right? Like you have like literally one of one.
Yeah, yeah,
Like you have that one and whatever one he has.
yeah,
Like damn well the fish haven't seen it because there's
yeah.
nothing
Not at
else
all.
around that's like
Yep.
it. So it's like you might have the secret tool in your
Yeah,
toolbox right
yeah.
now and not even know it. But yeah, it's
It's
tough.
it's.
I mean, yeah, that perch Armageddon, man. Like I've used it.
Mhm.
I mean, there's not too many of them around, and
Right.
I don't know if he's going to do another batch again. But it's kind of like that's a Magnum sized 2-piece wake bait with a like if you ask Mickey, like he used to kill it on that Armageddon
Yeah.
back when he was in California night fishing because it's got that click 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 like that
Right.
really deep sounding,
Hmm.
and he caught like teeners. So
That's absolutely insane, dude. Absolutely. I also have not that I don't think it's like very rare, but you just never see them up for sale. I have a top hook 175 depths. So I think that's pretty cool. Something you don't ever see very often and nobody ever talks about it. Mostly because it doesn't swim very well. But if you're
right.
into fishing a swim bait like a jig, then it's a pretty okay bait from what I've heard. I haven't gotten to fish that either. We're going to Lake St. Clair in 2 weekends, so maybe I'll bring that and bounce it on bottom like a dark sleeper. Maybe I'll catch a fish on it. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty badass. I would say the second rarest bait that I've ever had was probably the original run of the Roman made mood eye.
Mm,
That shad
yeah.
silvery bait, you know what
Yep.
I'm talking about? The original batch was 40 of them, and this one was numbered like 8 or 9, and
Yeah.
it was still new in the Roman made wooden
Box.
box with the
Yep.
foam and everything with the you know
The little card stuff in it and everything.
the the card and
Yeah.
like all the Japanese writing and
Yep.
stuff. I sold that. I didn't sell it, but I actually did a straight up trade for a couple more rare baits I actually use now. But it's just crazy how expensive this
Yeah.
shit is, dude. It really is.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
you're looking
crazy to
at,
think about.
it's like one bait, you're tossing around a $500, like throwing around a beast glide or like a workhorse right now,
Yeah.
and you got, you know, 20-pound dental floss and a
Yeah.
$300, bait, and you're just praying
Trusting
for
it.
God that you
Yeah.
tied a good knot.
Yeah.
But it's all part of it. But one thing, at least before I get distracted and before we go, I always try to pay it forward.
Mm.
So what I want you to do is, if you have the time,
Yep.
um, we all start somewhere,
Mm.
right? And as I told you the story, how when I started back in 2014, I didn't have, two
Yeah.
nickels to rub together coming in. So I want you on your podcast channel or however you want to do it,
Mhm.
um, pick someone that's just starting out or someone who's a little like tight on money,
Yeah.
um, find out who it is, whoever you pick, let me know. I'm going to send them either, I'll give them a 2-pack of Rising Suns with a hook, or I have a new one package. I got a bunch of Huddlestons.
Mm.
So whatever they choose,
Mhm.
just let me know, or I can send it to you and you can send it out, or whatever, however you want to do it. I can mail it straight from my house, and I want to hook somebody up with some new baits to get started.
Heck yeah, dude. I'll throw in I've got a couple. We'll keep the soft bait trend going. I've got a couple 5-inch NLBN K tails that I'll throw
Yep.
in too. So you guys will get a little package of some soft baits with some hooks. 5-inch K tails catch fish. The Rising Suns catch fish. The Huds catch fish. So
Yeah.
whatever you guys end up with, you guys will be on your track, on your way to catch some good fish. Hopefully
Yeah.
very soon,
And let
dude. That's
us
super
and let
awesome
us
of you.
know. And let
Yeah.
us know. Yeah. Well, I listen, man. I try to pay it forward, and
Mhm.
because like looking back at it, like nobody, it was like a one-man show, right? Like
Yeah.
I had to
Yeah.
do everything back then. I wish somebody threw me some baits or threw me, a bone here and there when I
Mhm.
first started out. But whoever it is, let us know where you fish, because sometimes color has everything to do
Yeah.
with it.
Yep.
Like if you live down in like Florida and Texas and down south, like I'm not going to send you like a perch colored bait because you don't have them down there, and and vice versa. So wherever you fish, like I got gizzard looking stuff or shad or trout or just even
Heck
like
yeah,
a
dude.
regular silver bait fish, something. But we'll figure it out. I try to, like I said, your podcast, man, what you're doing for fishing is awesome, especially in the swim bait world.
Yeah. Thank you, man.
And I've listened to multiple, or you know, I think I've only missed a few of
Mhm.
the podcast episodes that you guys, because I drive around in my car all day and
Yeah.
I'll listen to Scales and Tails and I'll just play it in the background, and it's crazy the amount that the perspectives that you get from people
Yeah.
and all the stuff that you'll pick up on that you're
Mhm.
like, huh, I never thought of that.
Yeah.
Dude, what you're doing, and like I hope your channel like blows up to epic proportions, and like
Appreciate that,
it
man.
gets, yeah, I mean you already got like 5,500 followers, and I really appreciate you having me on here to talk. I mean, being up here in the Northeast, obviously, we're not running into,
Yeah.
those teener class fish, but
Right.
man, maybe so, hopefully someday. But
Yeah.
I mean, being a guy from the Northeast, and it's cool to get on a podcast and kind of share this perspective, and um because damn well those SoCal guys and Texas and Florida guys, they're
Mhm.
always on it, and especially those fish coming out of Ivy and
Yep.
Fork, and like the reservoirs in Southern California where those, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a world record swimming around one of those lakes.
Yeah, I think with that 16 and a half, 17, whatever it was, I think we're getting close. I don't think necessarily the fish are getting bigger, but I think the guys are getting better at targeting these fish and getting these fish to eat.
Yep.
So I don't know. We'll see in another year and a half. There might be a new Texas state record, and it might be
Oh
you
yeah.
know, upper 18, 19. I think their record is like 17 and a half, 18 Ethel. So,
Yeah.
it might be knocking on 19 pound door, which would be crazy to see.
Yeah.
And I think that would give new hope to everybody in the US that maybe the world record is indeed alive and well somewhere here and not just over in Japan. So, I don't know. Only time will tell. And I think it'll be interesting to see unfold for sure.
I think you're right. I think it's either going to be marginally beat
Yeah.
or it's going to be like a 20 and a half,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
It's not, or like, I think I don't know if the state record is like upper 17 or lower 18 there.
Yeah. It's something
It
like
might be like
that.
an 18-1 or 18-2.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised if there was a 19 and a half to 20-pound bass that nobody's just ran into yet or
Mhm.
can get the bite.
Yeah.
I
Or
mean,
they think it's a
you,
carp.
you know,
Yeah.
or something else, or just like, think about how smart and how,
Yeah.
aware of its surroundings,
Mhm.
where that fish is like, huh, been there, seen that.
Yeah.
So, and like the swim bait game, there's so much stuff coming out now. It's just going
Yeah.
to take one bite and one
Mhm.
bait to get like, oh, this is different. Let me try this out,
Mhm.
and it'll happen. I'm excited, man. I mean, especially going in with all this new technology and
Yeah.
stuff. I've been refreshing the page every day now, because down south, this is when a record's going to get broke.
Yep.
Like, up until probably 1 or 2 weeks from now. I mean,
Mhm.
it's possible. And
Yeah.
then, as you head north, it's like, when's a record going to get broke? Is it going
Mhm.
to be, mid-May or, June, somewhere in there?
Yeah.
But hey, man, I have any more questions for me? Because I'm an open book.
I I don't think so. All I gotta ask, so everybody knows, is where can they follow you on Instagram to see some of these fish pictures that we've been talking about? The limited ones that you do post, where can they check these out at?
My Instagram username is swimbaitjeff. SWIMBAITJEFF. It's a private account, but follow me. You know, just hit me up if anybody has any questions about anything, gear, baits, bait tuning, this and that. I love teaching people things,
Mhm.
and I wish I had someone to go to, like, back in the day when
Yeah.
social media was just getting big. I wish I had somebody I could run to be like, hey, I was thinking about trying this bait out. Like, how would you recommend using it,
Mhm.
or what line or whatnot? Like, there was nobody to talk to,
Yeah.
right? Um, but send me a DM, if you want to learn a specific bait. If I haven't fished it before, I'll straight up tell you, be like, hey man, like, it looks like a good bait.
Yeah.
But just because, I'm swim bait Jeff doesn't mean I touched every swim bait, because I
Right.
certainly haven't.
Yeah.
Um, but I love helping people out. Gear, bait tuning, whatever you need. Um, Even if it's just a quick talk with confidence and weather patterns and stuff like that.
Mhm.
I'm an open book. Like I said, I got nothing to hide.
Yeah.
I'm built from the ground up, and I've failed more than I've succeeded, and I would like to think that I've succeeded pretty good.
Yeah.
Um, but if there was a bait to lose and a rod to snap, I've been there and done that. So, um, it's all about learning, and to learn, you got to fail.
Mhm.
And if you're not failing, you're not learning, and if you're not learning, you're not going to catch those big fish.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%, dude.
So,
We'll round back out maybe in like the middle or end of July once like everything's kind of settled down, and we'll talk about the spring bite you had, if you caught any really
yep.
good fish, or kind of talk about maybe a bite you got on, whether what baits it was, or kind of
Hmm.
add on to this episode a little bit more for the 2025 season if you had anything crazy happen or go
Yeah.
down for you. I think that'd be a pretty cool
Yeah.
one to do.
Yeah. And I'm hoping I got more batteries for my GoPro.
Heck yeah.
I'm gearing up. I'm hopefully to get more, like you said, how much can you put out there? Because the
Yeah.
cast to catch stuff is great, but
Yep.
with that wide angle GoPro, it shows you a quarter mile worth of shoreline. So,
Mhm.
uh, yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. And hopefully I can have hopefully I have a better 2025 than I did 2024. But,
Yeah.
it's going to be a tall task, but that's just more motivation.
Right.
Um, because I know if those fish are out there, it's like, for every one that you catch, maybe there's two or three in a wolf
Mhm.
pack that you didn't.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping to find some of those outliers this spring, and we'll have to get back together, like you said, summertime, or
Yep.
maybe even late fall,
Late
after that
fall.
good
Yeah.
fall bite. And
Yeah.
maybe like Thanksgiving time is when I wrap up, and we'll go do a year in review, and
Heck yeah.
we'll talk more baits, and I'll get more baits out to more people and other people's hands. And like I said before, just shoot me a name of
Yeah.
whoever you want
Yep.
to send these baits out to, and
Yeah.
I'll send them out either directly to their address or to you, and we'll
Mhm.
send it out and get people hooked up, because
Yeah.
I like to, like I said, I like to pay it forward. So,
Yeah. if you guys are wanting to kind of get in on this, shoot me a. You guys don't need to comment on the post or anything. Just shoot me a DM on Instagram or on Facebook, and you don't need to post anything. Just kind of message me privately, and we'll get some stuff all squared
Yeah,
away. But as always, Jeff, I want to thank you for coming on, dude. Absolutely,
yeah,
it's fun when I get to talk to a guy who lives kind of in quote unquote my neck of the woods, and we get to talk about the fish behavior, and you get to talk about the truly giant fish behavior and how you've kind of figure them out slash crack the code on what these big fish want
mhm,
and how they want it throughout the year. So I cannot thank you enough for coming on. And like you said, we'll get you
yeah,
back on, like you said, probably later in the fall, just so we can kind of do a whole year season recap and we can kind of hear what you were up to, see if you can break the 21 over 7 pounds like you had set in 2024,
yeah,
because I'd love to hear it, man. And I'm super excited to see what you get going, what you get rolling here in the next couple weeks for that spring bite.
yeah. Yeah, and I like to set the bar high for 2025. So I'm either
Yeah.
going my one goal, like it's always been, is state record.
Yep.
So if I can't do that, my next goal is 5 fish for 50 pounds or
Right.
more.
Hmm.
And that's a tall task because,
Yeah.
that's averaging, 5, 10 pounders. But
Hmm.
we'll see. But I like to keep those goals high because it gets me out to the lake and, gets me off the couch on those rainy days to
Yeah.
still head out. So thank you for having me. A, awesome podcast. B, C, I wish you nothing but the best with your podcast and personal fishing this year. And D, can't wait for the fall follow up
Yeah.
with this with part two.
I'm
And
hyped,
like
man.
I said, anybody can add me on Instagram. Don't be afraid just because it's a private account. Add me, hit me up with questions, talk. I don't mind FaceTime with people and talking big fish. It's what I live for. And hopefully you'll catch your new PB this spring too. And
Yeah.
on another point, hopefully the sun starts to come out more for us
Yeah.
northeast guys, because I'm getting sick of this up here.
Yeah.
But
It's gloomy.
yeah, like I said, man, awesome podcast, and thanks for having me, and thanks for your time.
Of course, man. As always, guys, I'll put
Yeah,
all of Jeff's stuff in the show notes. You guys can go follow him if you don't already. While you're following him, if you're not following the podcast, Scales and Tails Media on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook. You guys can follow that. Keep up to date with all that good stuff. If you guys are listening on Spotify, make sure you go review the podcast, give it 5 stars. If you enjoy what you're listening to, helps it push it out to more people. And if you guys want to support the show directly, check out the Patreon. There's a $5 and $10 tier. We're going to start doing an episode every week directly on that. It'll be about a 20 to 30 minute rambling session with me. And then also every month, I want to try to at least drop 2 videos strictly on Patreon. So if you guys want to support the show directly and get some more content that's kind of a little bit more exclusive and some first eye look at some stuff coming up the pipeline, make sure you check out Patreon or Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube for the free stuff, and we enjoy it all the same. But as always, Jeff, thank you for coming on, man. Absolute awesome episode. I hope the people
yeah,
enjoy this, and if you guys want, make sure you guys go follow Jeff, and we'll talk to you guys in a couple months, and hopefully Jeff will be talking about how he is the new holder of the New York State record. But as always,
hopefully.
I want to thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll talk to you guys on the next one. See you guys.